We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys! This is part 4 of What If Naruto is Completely Blind. Naruto has been keeping dangerous secrets for years. A long-forgotten dream that just won't die, an ally he shouldn't know and a friend no one thought he had, are what keep him going. Graduating is the least of his problems. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 11, Snakebite. I was checking my backpack for the 18th time by feel as I walked towards the second exam with Sasuke, checking that I had packed everything I needed. Did the pack feel too light? What if I'd forgotten something? Were my new tags in here? Had I remembered the extra bundles for my teammates? 10 seconds of frantic scrabbling later, I remembered I'd put them in a pocket of my new pants. Sasuke, who had made me wear them for the exams, informed me they were black, which I wasn't happy about, but he said there was an orange stripe up the hem, so maybe they weren't so bad. Hey, Sasuke, I said to get his attention, pulling out 3 bundles of rectangular paper sheafs with ink seals carefully drawn on them, held together with bands of colored paper, and gently tossing them to him. Here, what are these for? He asked as he opened a velcroed pocket to tuck them away. They're my latest tags. Red band is explosive tags, my own variety, yellow band is shock tags, and white band is flash tags. He made a sound of acknowledgement as we kept walking. Having any luck with the, what are you calling them? Freeze tags? I shook my head. They're difficult. Ice isn't a normal element, so I've been having trouble finding seals. That kid, Haku, said that his element was a byproduct of a Kekkei Genkai. I trailed off, frowning, before starting to grin maniacally. Aha! I think I've got it. I began to scribble in a notebook, suddenly having gotten an idea for combining the 2 elemental seals. Ice was made up of water and wind, but they wouldn't mesh. I could see that straight away. I would have to modify them enough to work together, but not so much that they would cease to be what they were. I was still scribbling wildly when we stopped at the edge of the forest of death, a good distance from the other waiting genin. Sasuke knew I worked better with quiet, and we still needed to be close enough that we'd know when the exam started. I finished reworking the water release seal I had hopes I could use and started to fiddle with the next one, barely noticing when Sakura came up to us until she actually said hello. Oh! Sakura! I have some tag seals for you. I said, tugging the bundles out of my pocket and separating the ones for Sakura from the test ones I was planning to use in the exam, with the enemy ninja as guinea pigs. Red is explosive, white is flash, yellow is shock. Wrap them around a kunai or apply to a surface and put in a bit of chakra. These ones have 10-second timers. I'm still trying to get the remote fuses to work. And I don't trust the impact fuses either. What are those purple ones for? She asked, stowing her own tags in her backpack. What color stripe? I asked distractedly, putting the handful of tags away and returning to my seal book with a frown. No, that bit wasn't going to work. The nodes were all wrong. Purple band, yellow stripe, Sakura answered me. The paper was pale purple, too. Those are my new poison tags. I mumbled, erasing part of the wind seal. I want to test them in the exam. Yellow stripe means they're tranquilizer tags. They still need direct contact with the enemy to work. Damn! Stupid wind seal, these things are so hard to work with. What about the green tags? She asked, still bothering me. Damn it, couldn't she see I was trying to work here? They were an attempt at a leaf signature seal gone awry, I muttered, tapping my chin with my pencil. What if I shifted that part, moved the second node? No, that would reverse it, but if I moved it there and connected it to those 2 chakra paths, aha! I think I've got this. No, wait, arg! Stupid freeze tag. Wait, the green tag seals. They're mud tags. Not lethal but good for a scare. Unless they're the new ones I was going to test, in which case they're quite possibly lethal until I work the kinks out of them. Listen up, maggots. I heard the proctor bellow. As my team shifted towards her, me putting my seal notebook back in my bag, I caught her muttering faintly about aspirin, Panadine, and Tylenol, accompanied by a strong whiff of alcohol, and I winced. Hey guys. I said quietly, getting my teammates' attention. Talk softly around the proctor and be nice. She has a hangover, the mother of all hangovers, from the smell I'm getting. Sasuke muttered something under his breath. Something to do with so why did she break the window, then? I listened to Anko's explanation of the second test, frowning internally. This could be a problem, I'd never been in the forest of death before. I was working totally blind, instead of having a pre-researched map to help. Then I let out a slow breath, reminding myself that even the wave mission turned out okay. We'd get through this. Somehow. Here, Sasuke said, handing me a sheet of paper and tapping it near the bottom. Sign this. What's it for? I heard Hangover Lady say something about waivers. I told him as I skimmed my fingers over the area he'd tapped to find the sign here line. It's to say we know the dangers of this test. You know, so if we get killed the village won't get in trouble. I nodded as I scrawled my messy signature on the paper. I expected something like that. Mentally, though, I was frowning and taking note of that. This exam would be a perfect time for the up-and-coming genin teams to get snuffed, with no problems. An ambitious village could even sneak in undercover top ninja to kill off as much of the competition as possible. And it would be almost impossible to prove and then react. I snorted aloud at my own paranoia and handed the waiver back to Sasuke. Like anyone would have the audacity to do that. Then again, everyone would assume no one would have the audacity to paint the Hokage monument or electrify the staff room coffee maker. I was scanning the chakra signatures of the crowd, trying to sense anyone who was off-key, and taking note that guy was sending out waves of his murderous aura, when I heard the faint rustle and then the skim of metal cutting the air, and I instantly ducked out of the way, tipping my head aside and spinning on my heel to face whoever had thrown the kunai at me. Now that I think about it, I reacted very calmly, considering. I think I'm getting too used to getting randomly ambushed. Yo, brat, pay attention or you might lose your head. The proctor taunted. I didn't respond except to straighten up and narrow my eyes at her, tilting my head slightly. She was unlikely to actually kill me, too much paperwork, so she was just trying to psych me out. A tiny trickle of blood ran down my cheek, but I wasn't bothered, the cut wasn't serious. I had barely felt it at all anyway. Che, she snorted, then I went stiff as someone came up behind me, edging away, closer to Sasuke, before focusing my every sense on the suppressed chakra essence. It was just wrong. The man reeked of snake and poison, scents I had hated for years, and I felt my lip curling for a second before I forcibly blanked out my expression. This signature felt kind of like Kakashi-sensei's, or Old Man Hokage's, sort of solid, heavy, and how old is this guy? He can't be under 30, but muffled around the edges, so that if someone who wasn't as good as me sensed it, all they would feel was genin-level chakra. But I was better. I'd had practice. And after wave I sensed the shadow, the void of so much more chakra behind it, lurking in wait. It was a creepy feeling. This signature meant trouble. You dropped your kunai, a snake-like voice hissed, and I recoiled away from the reek of venom as the proctor said, thanks. Now if you'd like to stop leaking killing intent, brass brat, before I take it as a threat. Her voice was mild, but there was a hidden thread of pain in it. Killer intent? I had barely noticed it, although there was quite a bit, considering we hadn't even started yet. Sorry, the now identified Grasnine hissed. I suppose the smell of blood got me a little excited. Shut up and get to your gates, Anko ordered, and I followed my teammates to the gate that they had apparently chosen while I was sensing out the competition. You guys ready? Sasuke asked, more to me than Sakura. I nodded cheerfully, taking a deep breath to steady myself and fingering the tag bundles in my pocket, while Sakura assured him that she was as ready as she was going to get. Fwee! The whistle blew, and I heard the gates in front of us creak open. We took off running. We stuck to the ground for a few minutes, Sasuke's hand brushing the trees and my teammates' footsteps guiding me through the forest. For quite a while we just ran, getting some distance, until Sasuke paused and tapped my hand, a signal we needed to talk. I quickly the area, finding no one, and then scanned it again more slowly, even checking underground and sensing nothing more than wildlife. I eventually nodded. Okay, we're clear, but keep it quiet. Thanks, Sasuke said softly. We need a password, so that if we get split up we won't be welcoming enemies into our party by mistake. Something easy to remember but hard to guess. Maybe the password should be individual, to make it harder to infiltrate, Sakura suggested. I frowned suddenly and held up 2 fingers, a signal for silence I hoped they'd recognize, a flicker, not quite right, there. I focused in on the spot, not too concerned, but wary nonetheless. Someone trying to spy. The chakra shielding was only high genin/low chunin, no real issue, but his vitals had given him away. Not a threat, just some random from aim, I think. We shouldn't stay in one place for too long, I said aloud, gently testing my senses to check if his teammates were in range. I didn't think so. Sasuke got my hint and we started to run again, flitting between the trees and quickly leaving the rain meme behind. He couldn't keep up with us and stay hidden. When we stopped again, I checked the area, then started to speak quietly. Okay guys, I'm going to warn you now, look out for that team from grass, and stay the hell away from them. There is something very wrong about them and I don't want us to be the ones to find out what it is. Second team not to go near is the sand team. That Gaara guy, there's something not right about his chakra. He could probably kill any one of us in an instant, and again, I'd rather not find out. His teammates are pretty dangerous, too, but nothing on his level. All the other teams are fair game, but keep an eye out for those too. I'll give you any warning I can, but I don't know what kind of stealth they have. They may be able to slip past. They're only genin, Sakura argued, quietly. They can't be that good, you can sense jounin easily, even when they're hiding their chakra. I shook my head flatly. The grass team, at least one of them is so far above genin level it's not funny, I said grimly. I sensed out his chakra, it's suppressed, very well, but I've been doing this long enough to sort of shadow sense what they're hiding. I swallowed and fell silent, until Sasuke asked, what power level would you guess? Jounin, high chunin. I shook my head slowly, remembering that heavy weight in my awareness. I think we're talking Kage level and up. Sasuke swore softly. What the hell are they playing at? Someone like that could slaughter every genin here without breaking a sweat. I don't know, but be on your guard, I said flatly. Now password, fast, before someone shows. Team for now, we may do individual later in the test when things get more desperate. Let the fire begin, and we fight until the last one stands, Sasuke said quietly. Return phrase is, when the last one standing falls, the fire burns from the ashes, and the cycle begins again. Got it? Wait, I ordered, my mind deserting the password problem for a more immediate one. What the hell is that? What's what? Sakura asked. That noise. It's like. I don't know. I turned to face it, and felt the blood drain out of my face as I finally recognized the sound, and the magnitude. Start running. What? What is it? Sakura demanded. To my annoyance they hadn't moved. It's a goddamn giant snake. Move your goddamn asses. Suddenly grasping the gravity of the situation, the pair started sprinting, me on their heels. I'm starting to see what that Enko chick meant when she said, dangerous fauna. Sasuke called, rapping his knuckles sharply on a nearby tree that I immediately dodged to the left to avoid. Hate to see what she meant for the flora. I was about to agree when something roughly the size of a building slammed into my side, knocking me flying. Low-hanging branches and foliage whipped against my face and limbs as I rolled to a stop in the shrubbery. For several seconds I lay still, ears ringing, before shaking my head and scrambling to my feet. Sasuke? I called uncertainly, turning my head and trying to listen for my team's footsteps. Sakura. Then I couldn't help screaming as something hot and wet closed over me, and everything turned upside down and I was dizzy and sick and I couldn't breathe and the smell was horrendous. Snake. The fucking snake. The fucking snake ate me. Ew. Alright, this thing is so dead. I snarled, my voice muffled to my own ears, struggling in the snake's throat. Kage Bunshin. The tiny, cramped, damp, moving space was starting to fill up with shadow clones, and I held the jutsu, creating more and more and more and more. There was a muffled shriek, and then the wet pressure was gone and me and the 100 Kage Bunshin stumbled and landed on the ground. One of them groaned. Was that thing a summon or a real snake? Another asked. I spat, trying to clear my mouth, then retched, emptying my stomach onto the grass, the acid searing my mouth and throat and burning away the taste. I moaned, and my stomach wrenched again, making me cough and spit at the foul taste. I think it was real. I'm tasting blood that ain't mine. Yuck. Whined another clone. I staggered to my feet, still spitting violently, and turned in a small circle, trying to get my bearings back. Spread out and search for the others. If you find them, flare your chakra or something to get our attention, and everyone circle in. Got it? Yes, sir. 100 voices answered me, and soon the air was filled with stumbles, curses, and the occasional poof of a clone accidentally dispelling itself when it tripped over. More than one walked headfirst into trees, making me roll my eyes. God, clones were really pathetic sometimes. I shoved my irritation aside at a sudden flash of familiar chakra, the sweeping rush I would always recognize as my own backed with Kyuubi's fire. One of my clones had found my teammates, frantically running on and calling out, trying to find me. I took off at a sprint in the direction of the chakra flash, which was rapidly dying away. The clone had dispelled itself on something, with other Bunshin on my tail, closing in on their location. The forest of death was actually kinda cool, I mused, dodging a thorn shrub that had just killed a clone. Maybe me and Sasuke could come here to train sometimes. I half paused as I came close enough to begin to hear speech, confused by what my senses were registering. Don't tell me that snake was poisonous or something. None of it made sense. It sounded like me talking, but it wasn't one of my clones. Hell, it wasn't even my chakra. That made no sense. Henge. Illusion. Genjutsu. Aha. That was it, someone henged as me. At least I had recognized it as an illusion this time. I clearly heard my own voice reciting the password I only half remembered, and I slowed up a little out of uncertainty. Launching myself straight in there was, flatly, not a good idea. The chakra I was sensing, wasn't it the same as that rain means? I couldn't tell, it was warped slightly by the henge, and I was still too far off. I had to get closer. Sasuke, it seemed, wasn't fooled by the henge or the perfect password, as the next thing I heard from him was a harsh, "How many fingers am I holding up?" The confused answer of 5 was not the one he was looking for, and he attacked instantly. I swore under my breath as they started to move off again, leaving behind the rain ninja as they continued to search for me. Morons. They'd find me a whole lot faster if they stood still and let me catch up to them. I brushed rather violently against a tree that I hadn't known was there and stumbled with a curse, swiping at my stinging arm. Stupid bark, stupid bush, stupid thorns, stupid forest, stupid team. I couldn't go any slower, not if I ever wanted to catch up, but she's what I wouldn't give for a map right now. Then a pulse of killer intent and venomous chakra flushed through the forest, and I nearly choked in horror at the sensations rushing through me, stumbling slightly before running on. My sensitivity to killer intent was dulled naturally thanks to the furball constantly projecting it from the back of my head, but this was fresh, pure, unsealed, unmuffled murder. Someone was going to die. I just hoped to Kami it wasn't Sasuke or Sakura. My clones were attempting to follow the noises and were systematically dispelling themselves, crashing into trees, shrubs, and large tigers. With a growl of idiots I took off in what I thought was the vague direction of my teammates, though I was probably just randomly making the feeling of it's this way up, as I knew I was completely lost, and promptly smashed into a tree myself. I followed them on ground level with a curse, rubbing my sore cheek. No way could I do tree jumping in an unmapped area. I'd kill myself in 4 seconds flat. I just wished they'd slow down. I was already bruised up from all the trees I couldn't see, and it was a miracle I'd missed as many as I had. I had to catch up to them. And suddenly, I could hear them talking again, hear Sasuke's harsh warning, hear Sakura's panting, hear the softer breathing of the Nin who was facing them, sense his shadowed, suppressed, dangerous chakra. Hear his sneering, friendly voice with the evil so badly hidden. I sprinted up the nearest tree, gripping with both hands and feet and then springing from all fours, from an animalistic stance at the snake essence, teeth bared and a feral scream of rage ripping out of my throat. How dare he hurt my teammates? I smelt the blood, smelt the fear, smelt the rage and terror and pain as I lashed out at the snake, barely missing and accidentally knocking a scroll from his fingers that had the faint sign of one of those scrolls Anko had been handing out. There were twin flickers of relief from my teammate's chakra, and one of annoyance from the snake's. "It seems you survived," he hissed, and I pinned the irritation in his voice with a smirk. "Sorry to disappoint you, but you'll find it extremely hard to kill me," I snarled, springing towards my teammates and hoping I wasn't about to miss the branch and hit the floor. To my relief there was solid wood under my feet, and I stood back up on 2 legs as I held out the scroll I'd snatched and said, "Hey, is this important? Naruto." Sasuke began calmly, "I love you. That's the Earth Scroll we need." "Really?" I turned my head to look at the scroll I was holding. "Wow, I'm good." Killer intent flared from the snake, making all 3 of us wince, and I said sweetly, does the snakey not like being ignored? Well, too bad, bub. I tucked the scroll into an inside pocket of my jacket, to make it harder to steal back. Oh, that sounded weird, Sakura snorted shakily. Especially coming from him, Sasuke agreed with a che that translated to laughter. Then we all dodged as a volley of shuriken came our way. I felt Sasuke's chakra fluctuate as he formed a Gakakyu, and followed up his movements with a hail of kunai, tagging 3 of them with my own brand of explosives. Apparently Sasuke noticed the strips of paper, as he immediately dodged back, ready to dive for cover. May need to work on the camouflage of those tags. Boom! There was a massive explosion, and I could hear the tree creaking ominously as the snake's chakra hurriedly split itself into several copies. I'd never sensed the jutsu before, but it had the taste of a Doton, so, dirt clones, if I had to guess. In the rush of adrenaline and terror it was impossible to track him, and I was already in trouble. I had no idea where I was, where the branches were. All I could do was track Sasuke's movements as he sprang from branch to branch and attacked the clones sporadically, adding in an explosive tagged kunai whenever I could pin down a clone with my hearing. Sakura was throwing shuriken, I think, and trying to weave a genjutsu, but even I could have told her that it was a wasted effort. This guy was way out of our league. We needed to get out of here and fast. Sasuke! I bellowed, wrapping a tag around another kunai, this one a test tag. He ran for it straight away, landing near Sakura, and as the blade shot towards the grassneen I took out a pair of mud clones that had been sneaking up on my teammates. Boom! Okay, that was so not the intended effect, but I need to remember that formula, I decided, ears still ringing. The angry hissing from my left was not unexpected, and I merely bared my teeth in response to the wordless threat, reaching for another tag. Sasuke and Sakura suddenly let out choked cries of horror and I sprang back instantly, backing against the tree trunk before looking at them and calling anxiously, "What's wrong? Sasuke, what's happening?" No answer but a strangled sob which only scared me more. Sasuke, so Shikumi doesn't affect you, eh? The man said silkily. You don't even bat an eyelid at killer intent that would knock out a tiger. You're stronger than you look. I'll take that as a compliment, you snake, I growled. Sasuke, snap out of it. Team. Wake up. What the hell is wrong with you? The enemy ninja let out a disturbing peal of laughter, and then Sasuke's chakra flared as he grabbed Sakura and sprang to another branch, stifling a cry of pain. Sasuke, I'm fine, Dobe, it's just a scratch. His sharp, gasping reply was music to my ears and I relaxed, relieved. Then I let the anger build up inside, needing the furious power for the growing confrontation. This guy was so dead. Sasuke had strung wires across the trees, I could hear the wind itself being cut and slashed by the razor edges of the metal threads. I grinned viciously. I could feel the heavy, choking, burning chakra of the Kyuubi surfacing, felt it start to sear my coils, burn my skin, and I waited no longer, letting go of my anger and lashing out. Instantly the grassneen bolted out of reach, brushing one of Sasuke's tripwires and having close to 1,000 volts shot through him in a burst of raw chakra. I grinned again. The shock tags had been worth the long hours and repeatedly exploded living room. He landed, breathing heavily, and I heard Sasuke's quick breathing a few meters above and to my right. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, but I could still hear clearly enough for the snake's words to reach my mind. Well, this is a problem that needs to be fixed. And suddenly there was an insane amount of pressure on my stomach and I recoiled sharply with a rising cry as fire was dragged through my chakra coils in a spiraling explosion of pain. I fell to my knees, digging one hand into the branch and driving splinters into my fingers as I crouched, doubled over with pain, but the slivers of wood meant nothing in the face of the agony shredding its way through my veins. I clamped down on my scream, forcing it all inwards, pulling my mind under control in time to hear Sasuke shout, "Naruto." Trembling, I pulled my feet back underneath me and stood up unsteadily. I'm okay. A lie if there ever was one. But the pain was starting to fade, and through the roaring in my ears that was slowly dying down I could hear Sasuke frantically fighting the snake guy, trying to drive him back with his katan jutsu and swiftly losing ground himself. Oi, team! I bellowed, and hurled a thick chunk of bark at our opponent. Stupid, yes. But Sasuke saw the streaks of blue ink against the white tag wrapped around it and covered his eyes instantly as he leaped backwards, letting me follow it up with a red ink tag as the grassneen snatched the bark chip out of the air easily. I grinned as I felt the first fuse give way. I actually felt the light blasting my skin, making it tingle slightly with the force of it, and felt extremely pleased with how those amplifying seals had worked out. I wasn't sure how they'd do with the flash tags, so I'd made my teams without them, in case they had the random side effect of making the whole thing explode in your hands. I can deal with that, chakra shields while I'm working, and Kyuubi's oh-so-pleasant influence, but in the battlefield, that wasn't so okay. The snake's howl of pain made the hazard well worth it. "Sasuke! Back off!" I hollered, and half a second later, the green-inked, high-powered explosive tag went off, and this time, the tree definitely collapsed. The green ink tags aren't perfect yet, but man, they pack one hell of a punch. I leaped over to my team, staggering more than I'd have liked on impact, and gasped out, "What the hell happened? I told you guys to steer clear of this team, this guy in particular." I put a hand to my stomach with a wince. There was angry red-hot chakra roiling from where it had been suppressed, and it hurt like anything, my muscles still shaking slightly from the shock of having it dragged away. And it was fading fast, blackening in my awareness, but I didn't have the time or concentration to deal with it, my teammates, and the snake at the same time. Team and enemy took priority. "Naruto, how many fingers am I holding up?" Sasuke panted, sounding worn out. I stiffened. "What the hell? I'm not that much of an idiot, Sasuke. This is so not the time. And you call me a moron?" He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I guess to Sakura, it's the real one this time." Then, to me again, "What the hell happened to you? You're covered in blood. Are you hurt? How'd you find us again?" I sensed the snake's chakra flickering back to life alarmingly and reacted instantly, shoving both my teammates away as he pounced, a long blade singing through the air. Crap. He had a sword. Various swear words. Various bad swear words. I threw a handful of shuriken at him, making him bounce back to stick to a nearby tree trunk, painfully aware of my fast-dwindling supply. I had a lot more in a summoning scroll, in my backpack, somewhat inaccessible in the middle of a life-or-death fight. Sasuke had set off one of his wires with a Karyudan in an attempt to burn him, even slightly, and Sakura was pitching in with a genjutsu that, while not fully affecting him, would probably pull him a little off balance. Then I sucked in a breath as his chakra suddenly appeared in front of me, and I heard the blade swinging. I leaned back, twisting away from the razor-sharp edge I could hear cutting the air. It barely skimmed my shoulder, I couldn't lean back far enough. A line of burning pain slashed across my sightless eyes and I barely had time to register the blood running down my face before I was kicked violently backwards, landing hard against a tree. All the breath was forced out of my lungs and I could hardly sense myself slumping on the branch, hardly hear Sakura and Sasuke both screaming my name, all of my attention focused on the explosion of pain centered just behind my forehead, lightning blasts of pain building up against my grip on consciousness, and I was barely holding on when I heard. When Sasuke screamed, it wasn't a yelp of pain or shock, or a shout of fear. It was a scream of utter agony. I forced my mind to focus in on his chakra, which was flickering fiercely, the snakes backing away from him. There was something, a flux, a violent change, on his neck, the corner of his left collarbone/shoulder. My friend had half collapsed, kneeling on the branch, still screaming as loudly as he could, but I could hardly hear it because someone else was screaming. Was Sakura hurt? Had the snake gotten hurt too? No, I was screaming. As soon as I registered it I choked it back, clamping down on the sound, and suddenly everything around me was that much clearer. I could hear the snake freak's steady hissing again, hear Sakura's frantic attempts to calm Sasuke down, hear my best friend's screams with an all-new clarity. I snarled furiously and leapt forwards, my mind focusing on just one thought, making the snake hurt him as much as he'd hurt Sasuke, making him scream like Sasuke was screaming. He wasn't expecting me to recover so fast and so failed to react in time to fend me off properly, receiving several heavy blows before he threw me away. I very nearly missed the branch, dragging myself onto it with muscles that were shaking with badly suppressed rage, and got ready to spring again, ready to attack. I was pulled up short by Sakura's cry and instantly reeled back, jumping back to my team and abandoning the snake in an instant. I staggered on landing and actually went down on my knees, feeling excruciatingly dizzy. Blood loss, I thought dazedly. It was hard to focus on the fact that if the snake Nin came back we'd be very dead, and I didn't even remember him leaving, and Sasuke was still screaming and my head hurt like fire. Sasuke's screams suddenly cut out and his chakra dropped, making me flinch, but I soon recognized that he had passed out, presumably from the pain. Which left me in charge. "Greet, Sakura, can you carry Sasuke? I gasped out, getting one foot underneath me and trying to stand. At her affirmative noise, can you carry him and support me? I'm too dizzy to jump straight. You need to take us to a spot to recover. We can't stay here, we made a whole lot of noise, and there's blood everywhere, there'll be teams all over us in minutes. I'll try, she stammered, sounding terrified. And she didn't try to say anything else. Chapter 12, White Light. I was sitting straight-backed beside Sasuke in a shelter created by natural barricades of tree roots, my hatayate in my hand, while Sakura dabbed uncertainly at the blood on my face. Finally I sighed and said, Sakura, just bind them, already. Do it properly, and don't worry about hurting me. No matter how gentle you are, it's gonna hurt, so at least do it right. Please. Before I pass out from blood loss. I honestly dunno why I haven't already. Oh, okay. See, can you? I'll try not to scream, I said flatly, just hurry up. I'm getting really dizzy, and you'll need me as an advance guard while we wait for Sasuke to wake up. I couldn't help letting out quiet yelps as she wrapped gauze firmly around my slashed eyes, but Sakura didn't hesitate, and I bit down on the sounds and let her tie it off, forcing myself not to fight against the cloth. I let out a shuddering breath, swearing violently in my head as Sakura pulled her hands away and backed off, me wiping shakily at the blood still on my own face with a damp cloth and grimacing at the sticky feeling on my fingers. We'll only stay here overnight, whether or not Sasuke wakes up. If we can get to the tower quick enough, we'll be able to get some good, safe rest, and some medical attention for him, too. I really don't like the feel of that chakra flux. I heard Sakura nod, and then she squeaked, sounding embarrassed, and said, sounds like a good plan to me. I frowned slightly, not enough to disturb my eyes. What was her problem? What was there to be embarrassed about? I shrugged it off as a girl thing and continued, I'll watch Sasuke, you stay on guard. We're not going to be getting much sleep tonight, I'm afraid. Putting one hand in my pocket, I separated out my remaining tag bundles, finding the one I was looking for. Sakura, here. I handed her half of the tags from the sheaf I had selected, explaining, these are, or should be, tranquilizer tags. Slap them on a person like you would an explosive tag to a branch and activate it and it'll knock them out for at least 12 hours. Just don't use it on Leaf Neen if you can avoid it. They're still in the test stages and I don't know if the effect is strong enough to kill or not. I had nerve tags as well, but they were nowhere near as certain to work. I only started on them after wave, and I didn't want to accidentally hurt my teammate if the tags went bad and exploded randomly. Which they were still kind of prone to doing. As Sakura left the shelter of the buttress roots, I leaned back with a silent groan. It really was a miracle I hadn't collapsed from blood loss already. Head wounds bleed a lot, and this one was no mere scratch. I was fairly sure I hadn't healed already because something was up with the fox. The bellowing pain that still reverberated in my belly was a pretty good clue, but guessed enough of his chakra was still running through my coils to stop the bleeding a little. But still, it was only a guess. I had no idea what the hell was going on. Leaves whispered as I wiped Sasuke's forehead gingerly. He was overheating, feverish, his breath rasping slightly and his chakra rippling angrily, centering around the flux in his left shoulder. That was seriously going to have to get looked at. Sasuke, I said quietly, replacing the damp cloth, you better come through this okay. You hear me? No dying on me. Not now. Not after we've come so far. There was no obvious response, but I thought he gave a faint sigh that might have meant, just hang in there. It'll all be okay in the end. I half smiled, and then exhaled slowly, letting my ears focus on the outside world, listening to the scramblings of small animals, the humming of insects, the screaming of a genin team from Kyomo. I wonder what they ran into. But it was a long way from us, so I didn't really care. I took another deep breath, trying not to fidget. My system was still buzzing with adrenaline, even after the long time it had had to calm down, and I found myself twitching incessantly, checking Sasuke's pulse and temperature, scanning the flux every few seconds. Then I flinched, fighting with my stomach, before staggering away to vomit in a nearby bush. My head was killing me. It wasn't just my eyes that hurt, it was like that snake freak attacked my brain as well, making my whole skull radiate pain. I hoped that sword thing didn't have acid on it. I coughed, then spat, rinsing out my mouth, before stumbling blindly back and sitting down near Sasuke again to lean against the tree. I sighed, listening to Sakura's quick, anxious breathing out the front of the little cavern created by the tree roots. I needed something to do, or I'd lose it entirely. Or throw up again. Neither option was that inviting. I pulled my sealing notebook out of my backpack and flipped it open, going back to the problem of the freeze tags. The problem was that as a general thing, the elements didn't work together, they worked against each other. You had to change a fundamental part of them to stop them destroying each other inside the tag, boom, but doing that meant they weren't wind and water anymore. It was impossible to just contain them, too. Ever tried to put a metaphorical leash on the elements? Not fun. Also does not work. I chewed on my pencil, staring sightlessly at the supposedly innocent seals on the paper with a slight scowl. You can't defuse them enough to get them to connect and work together, and if you separated them far enough for them not to blow up they wouldn't be able to react to make the ice. A metaphorical light bulb went off in my head, warm and sparking with energy. Directional seals were usually, but if I used them here, plus a spiral glyph to bind it all together, put those seals there and that one there and change the direction of that rune, those nodes, the connector paths would act as conduits for the extra power and they even had that endothermic tendency that would let them store power. I grinned at the scramble of notes that the page must look like, then flipped to a new one, wiped my finger over my cheeks, which were wet with blood again, and began to ink in the seals for 3 freeze tags, following my newly determined formula. Ah, hell yes! I muttered happily, ripping out the page and carefully tearing the 3 tags separate. The next unlucky bastards to come across us could be my guinea pigs for these, as opposed to the innocent trees I usually ended up using. Sasuke groaned softly, and I shifted my focus back onto him, wiping the sweat off his face and changing the cloth. Come on, Sasuke, you've beaten worse than this, I told him quietly. Hang in there, huh? We just gotta get to the tower, but you better wake up before then, bastard, you're damn heavy. You hear me? You gotta wake up. He didn't respond, though I was hardly surprised. His chakra system was flaring uncontrollably, and the worst of the storm was centered too close to his head. This kind of crap was painful enough, but in your head? That had to hurt like all fuck. I wrung out a cloth absently, listening to the sound of a genin team arguing off in the west. They were too far for me to make out the words, but they didn't seem to be close enough to be a threat, so I set about finishing the freeze tags, edging them with blood to stop them from going off the second I put chakra into them and deciding on an impact fuse seal. Even if they didn't always work, the timers would be unreliable for these ones. I just finished when I realized that the genin team had stopped arguing and were now moving, and heading straight at us. Shit. Sakura, 3 hostiles, approaching from the west. Be on your guard. She gulped, then whispered, thanks. Be careful. I frowned, wondering what she meant, then turned back to my best friend as he coughed weakly, chakra fluttering disconcertingly. I checked his pulse again, changing the cloth as I listened to the approaching team suspiciously and relaxing slightly as Sasuke's coughing fit calmed. The 3 advancing genin were just that, genin. Their chakra was normal, if with a different feel to most others, and it wasn't aged or shadowed. All the same, 3 enemy genin was probably 3 more than my team could handle right now. I heard a squirrel scurrying around, far too close to our camp, and cocked one eyebrow as I realized it had just escaped from the 3 genin, who had stopped moving for now. The sound of a kunai landing in the dirt made me twitch, and the squirrel bolted away. I guess Sakura hadn't wanted it to set off whatever traps she had set up. Then I heard voices, unfamiliar ones, talking quietly, out of most people's range of hearing. Well, sadly for them, I'm not most people. She noticed the explosive tag on the squirrel. There was a tag on the squirrel? I don't think so. Then what? I think we'll find out if we get closer. That was 2 males, I guess the 3rd was female, judging from footsteps and the usual way genin teams were set out, but I couldn't be certain. Exceptions to every rule and all that shit. So, let's get going. I quietly warned my teammate, get ready, Sakura, they're coming. She squeaked in fear, but I was preoccupied with Sasuke's violent shivering. Damn, he was just going from one extreme to the next. I wondered vaguely what time it was. If I really tried, I could guess it from the lengths of shadows on the ground, or the strength of sunlight, but that was difficult and not something I usually bothered with. I just asked Sasuke. Not to mention I could usually only tell day and night. But the thought fled my mind as I heard a male genin's voice, one of the ones from just earlier, say mockingly, keeping guard all night? I huddled down instinctively against the bark of the tree roots, wondering if they could see me. Hoping that the answer was, no. Wake up Sasuke-kun. We want to fight him. I froze. Fight Sasuke? What the hell for? There were stronger, more impressive genin out there to prove themselves against, and we were unlikely to be targeted as easy prey. Okay, so we were rookies. I paid only vague attention to Sakura's sharp voice demanding various answers, preferring to mull over my own questions and put a comforting hand on Sasuke's shoulder when he shuddered, his chakra flashing tiredly. The internal fight was wearing him out. Hang in there, Sasuke. I wonder what that man could be thinking. There was a definite sneer in the guy's voice as he spoke, and I frowned slightly. That had something to do with that mark, the power flux in Sasuke's neck, which was still just as violent as before. But hearing that, "We can't let you go," the other male added. "I'll kill you. And I'll kill this Sasuke guy, too." I bared my teeth. Yeah, right. They'd have to get through me first. "Wait, Zaku," said the first one, and I instantly pinned the name to the second male voice. How unoriginal. What use is a trap if it's noticed? They spotted one of Sakura's traps. "Che, how sad," Zaku said snidely. "She threw the knife so the squirrel wouldn't get caught." "Let's kill her now," said the first genin, and I could hear the malicious grin in his voice. My heart started to pound as I reached for a weapon, hearing all three of the enemies push off from their vantage points, all headed towards us, and then there was a sharp twang as Sakura cut a wire. I raised my eyebrows at the size of the log I could hear swinging down towards them and grinned. Sakura had definitely improved from the bratty fangirl who'd been a footstool in Sensei's bell test, thinking to trap the above as well as below. Then there was an incredible blast of air, not sound, just air, that shoved against me, no doubt far more violent outside of the shelter. What the hell? I thought frantically, shifting my feet so that I was ready to move if I had to. I was about to charge out, weapons flying, when a voice made me relax as I realized we were okay, at least temporarily. Rock Lee had come to the rescue. Thank Kami-sama for his insane crush on Sakura and inability to back down from a challenge. The blows I could hear landing sounded very painful, and I made a note to watch out for this guy, on top of all the other mental notes on Rock Lee. Seriously, there was enough mental paper in there to make a mental tree. His taijutsu was very impressive, and his speed was nothing to sniff at. I listened to them exchanging blows, half of my focus on Sasuke, who was groaning quietly between gritted teeth. I was starting to get really worried. The flux wasn't getting any better, I still had no clue what it was, and his system was getting exhausted from the constant fight. If I had better chakra control, I might risk giving him a bit of my chakra to help fight whatever was the problem. My chakra was volatile enough to drive it out, but I didn't, so I couldn't. Then I jerked and clapped my hands over my ears, gritting my teeth against a blast of air and ringing sound that shot needles of pain straight through my eardrums into the center of my brain, hot pulses of fire burning in my head and making tears come to my eyes, which made the deep wound their sting. But I paid it no mind, forcing my hands even tighter over my ears and trying to block the painful noise. Then it was gone, and I tried to drag myself back to the present, my skull still echoing with the vicious ringing. Other sounds, people talking, filtered through to my agonized mind, but I couldn't focus on them, my brain flickering from one thing to the next in a confused, pain jumble. Slowly I regained my grip on my senses and consciousness, finding myself crouched on the ground beside Sasuke, my head in my hands. I could hear the sound genin jeering as Sakura fought them. "Sakura." I shot to my feet at the sound of kunai meeting flesh and darted forwards to the entrance, trying to build a mental map of the situation. All I could tell was Sakura was in close quarters combat with, was it Zaku couldn't tell life signs right, and I could smell the blood and there was another team in the shrubbery but no, that was just Team 10, I hope to Kami they don't attack us, and I shouted, "Sakura, use a tag." I don't know if that was her original plan or not, but there was the tiny flare of chakra needed to activate a tag, and then she was scrambling away. I held my breath, waiting for the tag to blow, but nothing happened, until Zaku crumpled to the ground. "Ah, hell yes," I murmured, grinning. "Looks like the tranquilizer tags are a win." "Zaku." "Yep, definitely a girl as the third-party member." "What the hell?" "Get up, you lazy bum." No reply. I smirked. "Ah, hell yes. Che, do I have to do everything myself?" The girl complained, and suddenly she was standing above Sakura, making me stiffen in surprise. I'd heard her moving, but that was still rather impressive. "You'll never survive as a kunoichi when you're more worried about your looks than your weapons," her cold voice said, and I heard Sakura yelp in pain, putting me on edge as I reached for a tag slowly. But if Sakura was there, she'd get caught in the blast. This wasn't going to be easy. I mean, your hair is perfectly silky smooth. Great for a model, useless for a ninja. Sakura seemed to be being shaken. Had she been grabbed from behind? No, she was being shaken by the hair. Cammy, that had to hurt. I seemed to have been forgotten temporarily, and I quickly flicked through my repertoire, trying to think of something I could do to save my teammate, and Sasuke's breathing was getting harsher by the minute. Explosive tags too strong, shock and flash tags too inclusive, I'd hurt Sakura too, other tags contact-based. I heard the buckle of Sakura's weapons pouch clink, raising an eyebrow as Kin sneered, "What are you gonna do with that kunai? It's not like you're strong enough to actually hurt me." And Sakura's quiet reply, "It's not for you." And the sound of a kunai slashing through hundreds of threads reached my ears. Sakura's feet were suddenly moving again and my mind computed that she had cut her hair to escape, that there were now 2 free targets. Let's see what these new freeze tags can do. In an instant I had hurled 2 kunai unerringly at the remaining genin, and there was a yelp of shock that was cut off with an odd crack through the air, not like bone snapping, something different. The second tag just exploded in a blizzard of freezing air on contact, making both me and its target, the male genin, curse. Damn! What was wrong with that one? Although that was a cool wrong. The only thing better than a tag doing exactly what it was supposed to was a tag exploding in a whole new way. I think that it was that node, did I? I think I must have, if it reacted like that. The wind seal must have fed through one of those endothermic nodes too many times, overridden the diverter and built up a circular path, or even just enough power, that would probably do the trick. You little brat. The girl snarled, and I glanced in her direction, wondering what had happened with the tag aimed at her. She was breathing heavily and, I thought, shaking slightly. What happened there? I asked Sakura, pointing at the girl, Kin, I think was her name, who only cursed at me. You froze her feet to the ground, Sakura said, sounding odd. Awesome. That had been the intended effect for these ones, I had finally gotten it to work. Now, what shall I do with these idiots? What about Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked, and I shrugged carelessly. He was behind me, and I could hear everything for ages. He was fine where he was for a minute or two. Aloud I said, Sasuke's just going to have to take care of his own unconscious ass for a while. Is Lee okay? He's out cold, and he's pretty beat up, that air thing, his eardrums. Messed with his balance, I muttered, nodding. Yeah, I felt it. Bastards. I don't think it was strong enough for his ears to go entirely, though. He should be fine with a little recovery time. I decided then and there that I hated Sound Ninja. Their whole attack theme seemed incredibly unfair to me. I shook my head, trying to dispel the ringing. And it wasn't just this fight, since we'd come to the forest, it had been explosion after loud clash after screaming genin with no end in sight. In the midst of a battle, I had managed to dismiss the noise, but it irritated me in hindsight. And my head hurt. And I was dizzy. That creep, next time I met him I'd cut his eyes out, see how he liked it, grumble. If I could find him again, that was. His voice and creepy snake scent were ingrained in my memory, but I realized that I didn't have a name to match with the markers. I'd ask Sasuke when he woke his ass up. My eyes were still bleeding sluggishly, and I wondered idly if the euphoric I don't give a damn had something to do with that as I swiveled my head in a sick parody of looking around. Give the stuck-up Hyuga in that tree nightmares, seeing me with blood dripping down my cheeks and bandages tight around my eyes. But so far at least he hadn't attacked us, and as long as it stayed that way, I wouldn't have to deal with him. Instead I focused on the annoying Sound genin, the 2 who were still conscious, I mean. Number 3 probably wasn't getting up for a while. The girl was struggling, yelping occasionally as she tried to get free. If she'd had access to ranged weapons she'd probably have proved it already, so no danger there. It was the last one who could be dangerous if he wanted to. But with a little luck, and a lot of bravado, I might be able to scare him off. Slowly, I let my head tilt to the side, and grinned. 2 down, 1 to go, I said conversationally. Would a level 2 explosive tag be overkill, Sakura? Maybe, she said uncertainly. Damn it, Sakura, you're supposed to be a genius. Catch on already. You never let me have any fun, I whined anyway. You've seen them. It wouldn't cause that much of a mess. At this point Sasuke would have said something sarcastic along the lines of, is that the level 2 that exploded the giant snake all over your clothing, or the level 2 that desiccated a square kilometer of heavy jungle? And while Sakura's response wasn't as good as his would have been, it still did the trick. Naruto, I've seen your apartment. Your idea of mess does not tally with mine. Well, as far as I knew, she'd never actually seen my apartment, so apparently she'd gotten the picture. Finally. I pouted, crossing my arms and looking as put out as I could manage. What if they won't go away? Then can I? She sounded like she was considering it, though the sound guy didn't seem all that upset, and then something exploded well behind us, sparks and shrapnel dotting our little clearing. That was another team down. Oh, that's where I left that tag, I exclaimed, trying for delight. Sakura stifled a snort, and finally, the last sound Genin folded. Very well. He shifted, feet scuffing the grass. I concede defeat to a superior force. If I leave you my team's Earth Scroll, will you let me take my teammates and leave without further struggle? I automatically glanced at Sakura, thinking quickly as his female teammates spluttered and screeched. We didn't need another scroll, we had both. Now, we were in the clear. On the other hand, if these guys didn't have a scroll, it would make it much harder for them to pass this exam. They'd aggravated my headache, which was now the size of a small country, harassed my teammate, and had been going after Sasuke. I wasn't feeling particularly charitable. Fine, I growled. You turn up in my scope again before the end of this, and you'll find out what was making all those explosions earlier. As the tired, defeated chakra of the sound team faded away, my focus was drawn to the rest of Lee's team, who were standing over us but not moving. Yet, I scowled up at their tree. Are you going to come down and bother us, too? I demanded, not willing to even try to be subtle. Are you going to try to fight us? The Hyuga asked in return. Annoying bastard, answering questions with questions. Niji, his name was, At this point, I really didn't care. Use one of those level 2 explosive tags of yours to run us off? No, I said frankly. I mean, if I had to get rid of you guys, I'd just hit you with a tranquilizer tag like the sound dude got. You'd probably survive it. Well, maybe. In here survival's more of a question than an answer. There was a distinct pause as the two glanced at each other, before the girl I'd nearly trampled in that training exercise all those months ago cleared her throat and said carefully, how about we just take Lee and get out of your hair? I could be perfectly happy with that arrangement, and told them so. Team 10, it seemed, had decided that discretion was the better part of valor, as I'd heard nothing from them for a long while, not so much as an intake of breath. Annoyingly, I couldn't remember when that had happened, but if they'd decided to sneak off without bothering us, so much the better. I was in no mood to be dealing with more people now, not with Sasuke shifting again. Sasuke! I scrambled back to my fallen friend. He was panting, twitching, making odd, soft little noises that I couldn't classify, but his heartbeat was sharp and steady, and his chakra was starting to settle, just a bit. It would clearly still hurt like a bitch, but hey, anything was a good sign at this point. Sasuke? Hey, can you hear me? Come on, man, if you can't hear me then I'm gonna have to get seriously worried about you. He groaned, and the tired, pain-filled sound was like music to my ears. Oh, hell yes. How are you feeling? Come on, buddy, gimme something to work with. Pain, blood loss, numbness, something to do with your chakra, 'cause that's some weird shit it's doing there. Naruto, shut up, he growled. His voice was faint, hoarse, and gasping, a weak little cough punctuating the end of his sentence, but it was a response, for heaven's sake, a response. However, it wasn't what I was looking for. That's not an answer, I informed him crossly. Come on, you were the idiot who didn't avoid the big scary chakra dude, now own up to it and tell me what he did. The Uchiha tried to move and hissed in pain, slumping back. How the hell should I know? He panted. Ugh. I had the craziest dream. Good for you, I told him brusquely. Can you get up? We got blood everywhere again, we're gonna have to move soon. Good grief, can't you even sit still for 5 minutes without making a mess? Sasuke demanded, now struggling to sit. It was obviously a lot more trouble than it was really worth, because he was forcing chakra into his muscles just to be able to move them right. Chakra made a sharp crack against the ground where it sparked, the heat scorching the grass under his hand to a few blades of ash. Sasuke yelped and jerked his arm back, nearly toppling over. Sakura caught him, and I prodded thoughtfully at the burnt spot. "I take it you didn't mean to try to set us all on fire?" I said mildly, and my friend swore tiredly at me. "Chakra just flashed out," he huffed. "Can't control it." I rubbed my jaw, chewing absently on my lower lip as I thought about that. Sasuke's got real good control. When you play with fire most of the time, you have to be able to keep it in check, right? He'd never had the problems I did with random flares. "The chakra flux," I said aloud, and Sasuke shifted. I read the question in the movement and continued, kicking my feet off to the side so I wasn't sitting on my heels as I did so. "Since you passed out, your chakra's been, like, freaking out. Looks pretty painful, but then what would I know? Anyway, your shoulder looks the worst, which is bad, because your chakra doing cartwheels near your brain is just never a good thing, so." "My shoulder?" He interrupted, shifting his hand, probably to rub at his collarbone. That's where he bit me." I gaped at him. "He bit you? Oh, gross, have you got any idea what that can do?" "Oh, that's disgusting." Sasuke poked me, and I quickly went back over what we'd been saying, trying to remember what I was supposed to be. "Oh, right. So, I think that might have had something to do with it," I finished lamely. "Your chakra was going mad, so..." "I dunno. It doesn't seem to be doing anything now, so, maybe we can get Sensei to take a look at it later." "Why yeah, I guess so." His hand moved again. From the next sound he was running it through his hair or rubbing his head or something. Damn, that was such a weird dream. He seemed pretty bothered by it, and my broody Uchiha buddy usually brushed off dreams and nightmares and shit like they were bedbugs or something. "'Bout what?" I asked, wondering if it had anything to do with his chakra. "With it in tune with the rest of you, it's spazzing like that would do something to your head, maybe dreams. Something to look into, maybe." "Just searching for something I couldn't find," he murmured, and he was clearly very much out of it or he'd never have been talking about this in front of his already devout fangirl. There were voices, but they didn't make sense. I couldn't figure out what they wanted, so I just sort of ignored them. He tried to sit up again, hissing in pain even when I tried to take some of his weight, and Sakura supported his other side. "Damn, that grass dude really did a number on you," I said slowly, still trying to gauge the real level of injury. "I guess, do you know anything about him?" The Uchiha, still breathing hard, managed to nod and murmur back, "Why yeah, not much, I'll admit, and a lot of the crap he was spouting didn't make sense, but, he called himself Orochimaru." "Nope, doesn't mean anything to me," I shrugged. A few hours later, we stopped for a break, mostly because Sakura just about collapsed and began to cry, spluttering something unintelligible about my eyes and Orochimaru and being so scared and how she was sorry she hadn't been able to stop him from hurting us. It went on for a while, until Sasuke finally gave in and guided me to sit on the forest floor before moving towards the noise of Sakura's sobs. From her little wail and the thump of two bodies colliding, it sounded like she threw herself into his arms, and Sasuke for once didn't sidestep. "It wasn't your fault," Emo Boy murmured to her. "You did all you could. Sit down, come on, sit and drink this." I tilted my head, interested. Was he giving her a drug to calm her down, or one to sedate her? I hoped it was the former, because I didn't think I could stand unaided anymore, and there was a weird and worrying tingling starting in my extremities. Sasuke, of course, was pretending to be fine, but I could tell he was shaken up as well. We needed all three of us awake to get out of here. Still, after a few minutes quiet sobbing, Sakura slumped over with an audible rustle of clothing, and I listened as Sasuke lowered her unconscious body to lay on the ground and moved back to sit beside me. Now was as good a time as any for a short break. 2 days in, and we have 2 people out of 3 crippled already, he commented grimly, breaking the silence that had gripped our tiny camp, aside from the leaves and Genin screaming from afar. "Ha!" I glanced up from my boredom and stress-induced, and thus completely failed and pointless, attempts to replicate that explosive freeze formula I'd used on the sound Genin. "This stupid curse seal makes it dangerous for me to use chakra, and you're blinded, and this time there's no way to hide it." There was a pause as I considered this. "You sure?" "Yes. Sakura knows. Lee and his team know. Team 10, no, scratch that, Shikamaru knows. The rest of his team maybe not, unless he tells them. You're not healing as fast as usual, There's absolutely no way for you to say, I'm not blind. I grimaced, biting my lip. Shit. Sasuke didn't reply aloud, just shuffled closer and hugged me roughly around the shoulders. I sighed tiredly and went limp, leaning heavily against him, feeling exhausted and miserable. What are we gonna do, Sasuke? I don't want to go, but they won't let me be a ninja if I'm blind. That was the whole point of hiding it. I knew they'd never let me. I knew. I buried my face in his shoulder, eyes stinging viciously at the thought of being forced to quit being a ninja. I wouldn't be able to take it. My life as a ninja meant so much to me, and always had, even before I graduated. And Sasuke would be out on missions more and more often, and I'd be left without my best friend. Sasuke awkwardly patted my head as I shuddered, trying not to sob, and said, "It's not over until it's over, Naruto. Don't give up now. Show them that you're meant to be a ninja, that it's in your heart and soul and you can't give it up. Why bother?" I whispered, bloodied tears leaking from my broken eyes. Why bother? They'll just drag me off, saying I'm a health hazard, a danger to my team, and you know what? They'd be right. Sasuke sighed, and I knew he was rolling his eyes. Smack! Ow! I cringed, putting one hand to the back of my head. Snap out of it. I stared at him, confused, and he continued, "You're better than this, Naruto, you can and you will be better. Now get up, it's time to go." I stood up slowly, listening to Sasuke checking his bag and waking Sakura, and smiled. "Don't give up. I guess it's only fair. How are you feeling?" Sakura asked timidly, and I grinned, masking my earlier despair all too easily. "Been better, but hey, I'm conscious." Sasuke walked over, brushing my arm to be sure he had my attention. "Can you carry your own pack or do you want me to? You lost a lot of blood." I turned my head to him, offended. "What kind of prissy sap do you take me for?" I picked up my backpack and strapped it down properly, checking that I could reach my ceiling scrolls more easily this time. I had refilled my pouch, but it never hurt to be cautious. If we ran into a Orochi freak or Gaara? I didn't want to think about it. "Naruto, put your hand on my arm," Sasuke instructed me, pulling me from my worries and making me glare instead. "Sasuke, I'm not a little kid who's gonna wander off." "I know," he said patiently. Then, very faintly, so faintly only I would be able to hear him, "But you're not supposed to be able to do this." I bit my lip, realizing the truth in his words. I wasn't supposed to have been blind for so long that this felt like being treated like I was 4 years old again. No one else knew. No one else could know. So I sighed harshly and put one hand on the soft cloth of his arm guard, letting my hand tighten around it a little like I was nervous. "I'm going to start moving," he said, and took a step that I automatically followed, and we started off towards the tower. "We won't be doing tree climbing, you'll only hurt yourself that way." There was an unspoken question in that comment. How did you manage it before? "I'll learn," I said flatly, and then murmured as quietly as I could, "Nearly killed myself then. Listened for you and Saku, and aimed. All I could do." Sasuke nodded, then said, after a few minutes of silent travel, "You're doing good, look out for that rock." I half paused, and felt around with my foot to find the offending stone before stepping over it. Sakura was silent beside us, probably didn't know what to say, how to handle this. My head was pounding, but I didn't say anything. It wasn't too distracting, and there wasn't much I could do about it either. Maybe I should think about modifying the tranquilizer tags into instant painkillers. Then I twitched, and whipped around, a handful of shuriken already flying at the chakra source hiding in the trees, and as it dodged aside with the speed of someone far above genin I stiffened and threw more. The chakra was slightly shielded, maybe Jounin level, only one, were his team hanging around. He deflected one of my weapons, using a kunai. I smelled snake. The smell invaded my nose, the same as the bastard who'd cut my face in half, the one who'd done that to Sasuke, who'd made Sakura cry. A wave of fear reserved for the one who'd made my eyes useless accessories in the first place rose up in an unprecedented wave. My tired, confused mind overlapped with nightmares, old memories locked away long ago that still stalked my footsteps, and through it all was the snakes, the smell of them, there, here, now, him. My heart leaped up into my throat and stuck, making breathing hard, and Sasuke was saying something but it was too late I was gone they were here I could hear them feel them smell snake and just like that, I bolted. I only got a few paces before a root underfoot snagged my ankle and sent me sprawling, my head smashing against the tree I'd have run into 2 steps later anyway. I screamed aloud as the rough bark smashed into my temple and dragged across my face, across my eyes, jostling Sakura's bandage, sending fire flooding through my body, rippling in agonizing waves from my eyes, and oh god, there was blood, but I had to go, I had to leave, I couldn't stay. No to gain it. Naruto! Sasuke! My panicking mind latched onto the voice and I stopped flailing, letting him disentangle me from the tree and its low-hanging branches and pull me into a tight hug. It's okay, Naruto, you need to calm down, he murmured. It's okay. You're safe. I shook my head, unable to tell him how not safe we were, but I was getting dizzy and feeling the ground tilt precariously under me, so I just clung tighter and whimpered when he loosed his hug and instead pulled me to my feet. Holy hell, Naruto, what happened to you? A voice exclaimed, and I instantly pinned the false friendliness as Kabuto. How does he know my name? I don't understand. He smells snake. No, not quite, almost snake. Are you okay? That looks nasty. I'm a medic Nin, let me take a look at that. Get lost, I growled straight away, pretending I couldn't hear the half-sob in my voice. Lifting a hand cautiously, I gingerly touched my cheeks, where I could feel moisture, and brought newly slicked fingers to my mouth. The coppery tang of my blood flooded my mouth and I gagged, then whimpered a little to think how much blood I had to be losing, and tightened my grip on Sasuke. No more running off on my own and reopening barely closed wounds. Naruto, if he's a medic Nin, maybe you should. Sakura tried. No! Get lost. Naruto, let me help you, that must hurt. Kabuto pleaded. Stay away from my eyes, you creep. I said get lost. I think you should leave, Kabuto, said Sasuke firmly, his right hand on his weapons pouch. I almost collapsed with relief that Sasuke was on my side. What else is new? And finally, my panic began to abate a little. I didn't relax until Kabuto's signature had backed away from us hurriedly and was too faint and far off to really sense. Then I breathed a heavy sigh of relief and put one hand to my head. Thanks, Sasuke. No problem. I don't see why you had to be so rude, Sakura said stiffly, and I tilted my head in her direction just slightly, wondering how she could manage to scold me now of all times, for that of all things. Have you forgotten what I told you at the start? I asked brokenly. We can't trust Kabuto. His deception skills would put Jounin to shame. I think he may actually be a Jounin, judging from his speed and chakra, I added as an afterthought. But he's a Konoha Nin. Sakura argued. Sasuke turned his head, to look at me, I think. He isn't, is he? I shook my head slowly, not wanting to aggravate the headache. My chin and jaw were wet and dripping onto my shoulders, I realized dimly, but pushed the thought aside before it could panic me. No. He reeks of snakes, like that guy from Grass. I don't trust him, and I wouldn't let him near me on a good day, let alone now. We can't trust anyone out here, Sasuke put in. Our only option is to head for the tower. It's all we can do. By the time we made it to the large structure in the center of the forest, my head was thudding painfully in time with my heartbeat and I was starting to stumble, my feet not quite following where I wanted them to go. I felt exhausted, leaning on Sasuke heavily, and I felt dizzy and lightheaded at the same time as my blood being made of lead. Hang in there, Naruto, we've made it to the tower, Sasuke said, and I frowned in confusion. Tower, we were heading for the tower, that's right. Why was that? What do these hangings say? Sakura mused, and I thought dully, what hangings? Why'd the wind stop? Are we inside? Heaven and earth, mind and body, forget the riddle. My friend said sharply, and I vaguely felt someone tapping my face. Are they trying to get me to wake up? Why is that? I am awake. Naruto, come on, don't die on me now. I'm not gonna die on you, team. Should we open the scrolls? Sakura asked anxiously. I mean, Enko said not to until we got to the tower, and, well, we're here. At this stage I don't really care, Sasuke declared, and tugged gently at my jacket, to get at my scroll. That's right, there was a rustling of paper, I guess they had opened the scrolls, and there was a rush of smoky warm air. Yo! Kakashi-sensei's lackadaisical greeting roused me from my blood-loss-induced stupor and I pulled my head off Sasuke's shoulder to smile weakly at him. Hi, sensei. We made it. Naruto. He choked out, sounding horrified. What the hell happened? Orochi freak happened, I mumbled tiredly. Bastard nearly killed us, and of course the other genin thought a rookie team was easy prey. Stupid lazy bastards. Kakashi put one hand on my shoulder and I twitched at the unexpected contact. His other hand gently gripping my opposite elbow, he shifted my weight off Sasuke and then carefully lowered me to the floor, letting me sit down. To my relief, I wasn't sure how long I could stand up on my own. Sasuke, what happened? Naruto, I'm going to take off the bandages to have a look, Kakashi said calmly. His hand started to unwrap the gauze binding my eyes, keeping one hand on my shoulder. We were being followed when we first entered the forest, and after we threw them off, Naruto got separated from us when a giant snake came after us, my best friend explained. A couple of genin tried to infiltrate, but we had a password, and it didn't work. Then this snaky guy calling himself Orochimaru, I thought I heard Kakashi-sensei inhale sharply at the name, but I might have been imagining it, comes out of nowhere and starts babbling about power and skill, and goes to eat his scroll. Naruto jumped out of the trees and grabbed the scroll, and then we started to fight him. I don't really remember much of the fight. Naruto, I'm going to clean some of the blood away to get a better look at this, okay? Our sensei told me calmly, and I just nodded blearily as Sasuke continued. But Orochi Freak went to cut Naruto in half, and he dodged it, but wasn't quite fast enough, and the sword slashed his eyes instead. I got knocked out soon after that, so I don't know how you guys drove him off. He left, I said flatly, wincing slightly as Kakashi-sensei wiped semi-congealed blood away from the gash over my eyes that had finally stopped actively bleeding, now just oozing sulkily. I guess he got what he came for, or maybe he just got bored. Ow! Kakashi was now dabbing at my eyes with a cold cloth, and I whimpered as the disinfectant began to sting, shuddering and going stiff as my head began to hurt again, gritting my teeth weakly. Sakura, could you go down the hall and take the first door on the left, and ask for a medic, please? Kakashi asked, then shook my shoulder gently, saying, come on, Naruto, stay with me. But sensei, I'm tired, I mumbled. I didn't sleep last night, or the night before, and that's totally unfair, and I'm sleepy, and cold. It's cold. I heard shouting and made a face internally. I was too tired to deal with the others being irrationally loud. Was I being shaken? I couldn't really feel it. I couldn't feel my hands or feet, couldn't feel where I was touching the floor, sensing things as if I was 100 miles away. Sasuke was shouting, wake up. Go away, team, I want to sleep, and Kakashi saying loudly, Naruto, stay with me now, squeeze my hand if you can hear me. Why would I need to squeeze his hand? I didn't even know I was holding it, but I tightened the muscles in my hand anyway, my fingers stiff and unresponsive, numb, heavy, unfeeling. I heard an unfamiliar voice say something faintly about adrenaline and painkillers before all the sounds faded away, leaving me in a blissful, painless void. Then I gasped and jerked, a stinging pain in my neck as feeling rushed through my body, shuddering with the shock of it. I shoved myself into a sitting position off the floor, shaking my head dizzily, not even aware I had collapsed. Ow, what the hell? I complained, putting one hand to my neck. Shock, said a voice I didn't know, the medic, I assumed. I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. You said this happened 27 hours ago? Yes, said Sasuke from my left. I could feel his hand on my forearm through my long-sleeved shirt. First day of the exam, late afternoon. He bashed his head a little while ago, though, and the bleeding started again. He trailed off helplessly. Tough little thing, you are. Now I'm gonna give you a painkiller, kid, so don't fight me, alright? What's his blood type? I'm going to need to give him a transfusion as soon as possible. Unfamiliar hands grasped my arm and turned it over, and I flinched as the needle slid under my skin, depositing the drug into my system. A moment later, those same hands slid up to my collar and dug for my dog tags. Naruto, I'm going to stand up. Just stay where you are, Kakashi instructed me, before standing up like he'd said he would, but he didn't move away. We made it to the tower okay, then, I decided, tilting my head slightly. So you managed not to lose the scrolls, team? Sasuke sighed and patted my arm. No, Dobe, we didn't lose them. You, however, lost a lot of blood. Sorry about that. I grinned sheepishly, then looked up at our sensei and said, so, Kakashi-sensei, what do we do now? All three of you are going to go to the hospital to get checked and fixed up, Kakashi replied calmly, and I frowned slightly in confusion. Not that, sensei, I meant for the Chunin exams. What comes next? Kakashi sighed sadly. Naruto, Team 7 won't be continuing. You'll have to be disqualified. What? I howled, thrashing on the floor as the medic yelped. Why? We're allowed to get medical help once we get here. We brought both the scrolls, none of us died. Why would we be disqualified? Because, Naruto, one of the requirements is that none of you are incapacitated, unconscious or otherwise unable to fight when you reach the tower, Kakashi explained patiently. You can't fight, so your team cannot continue. What? I can still fight. I shouted indignantly, struggling to sit up and ignoring the medic's protests. So I had a little fainting thing a moment ago, I'm okay. Honest, Naruto. I smacked Sasuke on the back of the head, and he yelped. Ow! Then, purely reflexively, he punched me in the shoulder in retaliation. Ow! I whined. Kakashi sighed heavily in exasperation, and I grinned. I'm fine, Kaka-sensei. I can still fight. We can keep going easy. Naruto, you can't, our sensei said firmly, and I bared my teeth, chakra starting to flare up angrily. I can, Kakashi-sensei. I snapped, and Sasuke sighed faintly from beside me, but didn't try to interrupt. I'm not helpless. I might not be at my best right now, but I can still put up a damn good fight. We can pass the second exam. The medic cleared his throat and made us all turn our heads towards him, me cocking my head slightly. Excuse me, Hataki-san, but your genin is correct. He may not be able to fight particularly well, but he can hold a kunai and stand up, so technically he's not disabled or incapable of fighting. They are allowed to continue. Technically. There was a long pause, with a steady rise in killer intent that was aimed at the medic. I couldn't help grinning. Kakashi-sensei glaring was always interesting, provided it wasn't me he was glaring at. Oh yeah. I love technicalities. I cheered, albeit in a much more subdued manner than my norm. Naruto, maybe this isn't a good idea, Sakura tried. Sasuke snorted. Don't bother. His mind's made up. No point in arguing with him now, he's too stubborn. I stuck my tongue out at him, and the medic seemed to reach the end of his, justifiably limited, patience. You may discuss this later, he said urgently. Nothing will happen until the exam finishes in a few days, and right now I need this genin in the hospital wing. Girl, you run ahead and tell them to have 2 liters of B-positive blood ready and waiting. Hataki, Uchiha, help me get him up. Naruto, you need to stay still now, okay? You've lost a lot of blood, so we have to stop the bleeding and give you some more. It's going to be okay, but you need to stay awake. Talk to me. I felt hands lifting me, but didn't even compute the indignity of it, falling away from the conscious world. And so, with the excessive damage to the cornea and aqueous humor, not to mention the wounds to the irises, it is unlikely that. Look, could you just cut the doctor jargon and speak to me in Japanese like a normal person? I asked impatiently. It was roughly a day later, and I was being discharged from intensive care. Yay! Now, if I could just understand what the good doctor was telling me. I don't speak medical lingo. The doctor sighed, sounding annoyed, and Sasuke stifled a snort from beside me, making me grin. I meant, Uzumaki-san, that your eyes are so damaged it's not medically possible that you'll ever be able to see again. You were permanently blinded. There was a long pause as I waited for the doctor to continue, but that seemed to have been the ultimatum. So? I said slowly, what about the other injuries? Any broken bones I should know about and can't remember? Hit my head one too many times? Burns, sprains, all that crap. The doctor sighed again, more irritably this time, and papers flipped. Minor concussion. Minor to moderate blunt force trauma. Various contusions and deep tissue trauma. Various small to medium cuts. Slight strain in left wrist, presumably from falling on it. Severe gash to the head, causing extreme damage to the eyes. Moderate to major blood loss. Shock. That about covers it. Really? That's it? I was mildly surprised. Nothing broken. That's new. Well, there's a stress fracture or 2 in your skull, but nothing worth mentioning. Great. I said cheerfully, pushing myself off the bed. A couple of days rest and I'll be ready for whatever this exam has left to throw at us. The doctor patted my shoulder in a way I think he meant to be comforting. Alright, you can go now. Uchiha-san, your room is on this floor, room 137. Take a left from here, a right down the corridor and it's halfway down the hallway. Take Uzumaki-san there and get some sleep, okay? I need to speak with your teacher. Sasuke led me down the hallway silently, holding my wrist gently, and I couldn't help shifting my head so that I would appear to be looking at things as we went. It was habit, now, ingrained from years of practice. But even though I could vaguely sense out the area from our echoing footsteps, I asked, "What's this place look like, anyway?" "Stone walls, metal doors," Sasuke replied. "Floor seems to be stone, but I could be wrong. Fairly well lit, electric lights and so on. There are metal numbers nailed to the walls beside each door, I guess they're the room numbers. We just passed 100, must be nearly there." I nodded my thanks, and paused a few minutes later as Sasuke pulled himself to a stop. There was the sound of a door opening, and then I heard Sakura yelp slightly. She hadn't taken long to be checked over, and so had apparently been sent ahead. "Oh! Sasuke-kun, Naruto. What did the doctor say?" I scratched my head. There was a whole lot of medical jargon, but I somehow avoided breaking any bones. Couple of stress fractures, blood loss, cuts, bruises and so on, but hey! No bones. That's good news. There was a pause, and Sasuke muttered, "I believe she meant what he said about your eyes, Dobe." "Oh yeah." Heat rushed to my cheeks and I rubbed the back of my head sheepishly. "Well, what do you want me to tell her?" "I seriously didn't get all the medical crap," Sasuke sighed. "Okay. Just sit on the bed, head left to the wall and follow it. I'll tell her, you're too dense to do it gently." I ran my hand along the wall until I ran into the bed, sitting down on it with a sigh of relief as Sasuke said quietly, "The doctor told us the outlook was very bad. There was a poison on the sword, it's a miracle it didn't kill him, and the damage done was extensive." "Sakura. Naruto was blinded. And it's permanent. There's nothing anyone can do." The girl gasped slightly, but I was starting to feel really sleepy, must have been the painkillers. I let my mind slip away. Kakashi's log. "Sensei, I'm sorry. I'm a failure as a teacher. I know you'll never forgive me for everything I've done, but I'm sorry, and I always will be." Chapter 13, A Test of Nerve. I woke up in a warm, soft bed that was definitely not the lump of stone in my apartment or the grass of the training fields I occasionally zonked out in. Had I stayed over at Sasuke's house or something? No, we were midway through the Chunin exams. We were in the tower in the center, and would be staying here, recuperating, until the exam finished, in 3 days' time, including today. I smiled slightly, and sat up, wondering what time it was. Sakura was still asleep, in a bed across the room, and Sasuke's light breathing came from above me, must be a bunk bed. I yawned, and then swung myself off the bed and stood up. A mistake, I discovered, as strained, exhausted muscles took my weight for half a second and then collapsed. I winced as I crumpled to the floor heavily, narrowly missing a new head injury, my limbs stiff from the violent exertions of the last few days. Now, most people would expect to be rather stiff and sore, but not me. The Kyuubi generally doesn't tolerate any form of injury. Which meant whatever Orochi freak had done to my system was serious. "You okay?" Sasuke's voice made me twitch, and with a rustle of paper, I realized he'd been reading. "Yeah." I slowly stood up and backed onto the bed carefully, falling onto it with a soft thump. "Just stiff." There was a frown projected through a slight elevation in his faintly quicker breathing. "What about? Orochi freak did something funny to me, and now the furball's gone quiet. I can't touch his chakra, he hasn't even growled in days, the killer intent has vanished, hell, even, I think Snake Guy may have put another seal on. Sure felt like one, damn, those things hurt." Sasuke was quiet for a moment, before he asked, "So what are you going to do?" I shrugged. "Rest for the day, get ready for part 3, make some more poison tags, work on the freeze tags, track down that formula for the leaf explosion cost that was a cool bang when it went off, oh, and find a few scrolls on making smoke distractions. I've got a few ideas on making my own." Sasuke gave a long-suffering sigh. "I meant the seal, you idiot." I laughed a little at his exasperated elaboration, but quieted quickly. "I can't do anything about it on my own, this thing has messed up my system, made my chakra go weird. I could probably release it on my own, I know enough about sealing to maybe be able to, I could figure it out, but I can't risk messing with the fox's seal. One flare at the wrong time and I could rip myself apart." The bed above me creaked as Sasuke shifted his weight uneasily. "If your chakra's not cooperating, how will you fight?" I'll be fine as long as the jutsu doesn't need precision, I explained. A flare in the middle of, say, Kage Bunshin would just create an extra dozen or so. Or they could come out as random mutant freaks like your normal Bunshin, but that's beside the point. I tilted my head upwards in a combination of horror and astonishment, surprised Sasuke would say that aloud with Sakura in the room, would speak with her in the room, but then again, she was currently asleep. That doesn't happen, Sasuke. How do you know? He argued. Sasuke, I've had random flares in the middle of that jutsu often enough to know, that won't happen. It's just the nature of Kage Bunshin. Che. If you say so. Watch your back while you're fighting, though, without controllable chakra you'd be at a major disadvantage. My friend sounded vaguely anxious, but he didn't try to talk me out of it. I smiled. Sasuke was the best friend you could ask for. Once you chipped your way through the walls of ice that guarded his heart. I'd gotten lucky. I was already through before he could pull those walls up. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Are you just saying that to make me feel better, or do you actually mean that you'll be careful? I sighed faintly, smiling just a little, and repeated, don't worry. I never go back on my word. Sasuke breathed out in relief, and then pushed himself off the top bunk, landing lightly beside my bed and touching my arm. Come on, then. I'll take you to the library to look for your scrolls. There's a library in here. I raised an eyebrow at the thought. Yeah. Sasuke put my hand on his arm and started to move, the door sliding open and then closing again with a faint screech as we began to walk down the corridors. Apparently some jounin like to train here, so there's a small library in the tower, although I was warned not to expect much, and to expect it to be a mess. I shrugged, instead beginning to refocus my dulled, tired senses, letting the faint tickle of foreign chakras pinpoint a dozen or so other people, maybe half of them vaguely familiar. Another door hissed open, the sound sharp to my concentrated mind, the metal slipping to the left, the lock not quite catching properly, and I then sneezed, hit with the heavy, thick scent of dust and something else I so did not want to identify. I coughed slightly, hearing Sasuke rasping beside me and covered my mouth with my arm. Kami, when did they last dust in here? I choked out. Sasuke wheezed and spluttered, obviously not enjoying having his airways blocked with cloying particles of dust as he gasped out, wait here, I'll see if I can dig up some trap scrolls. Team. I grumbled, but he was already gone, and I leaned against the wall for support while I listened to him shuffling through the dusty room, papers rustling sporadically as he went through whatever shelves there were. I sneezed twice more, and I could hear Sasuke muttering murder under his breath, in between hacking coughs. About 10 minutes later a pair of dirty-feeling scrolls was shoved into my hand, and my friend gasped, let's go, already. Just a little while later, I sat on my bed, running my fingers over the first scroll, reading the ink text and scowling whenever the dust got too thick to sense the ink through it. I had a cloth beside me that was being used to wipe the paper clean whenever that happened, but it was still annoying. Sasuke had gone back to reading his book, still coughing under his breath every now and then. Hey, Naruto, when Sakura wakes up, you'll have to put the scrolls away. At my indignant noise of complaint Sasuke continued, Dobe, blind people can't read. I personally have no idea how you managed to learn to do it. Ink sensing is kind of hard, I admitted, but then I'll be bored. Would you rather be bored or found out? That harsh comment made me shut up, and I went back to reading on the production of smoke bombs with a scowl. The trouble with those was that the smoke was usually traceable. You couldn't use them in assassinations or you could give away your supplier and then get it tracked back to you. Plus, you yourself could get directly tracked if you were sloppy. The smoke clung to hair and clothing, a dangerous scent trail for a decent tracker to follow. My frown melted away as I thought, reading the scrolls slowly. I'd never had it happen to me, but I'd read of an ANBU team tracking down a missing nin that way. If there were hunter teams good enough to do that, then smoke bombs were only good for low-level missions. What you really needed was untraceable smoke. I frowned crossly. But that wasn't possible. Smoke bombs were obvious distractions. They were basically made to be traced. Sakura stirred, and I shot a scowl at the bed above me before tucking the 2 scrolls we had borrowed into my bag and leaning against the wall, wishing I could at least look through my ceiling notebook. I wanted to double-check what had made that one freeze tag go Blizzard style. At the moment all I had was guesswork. I was going to be so bored. Bang! Smack! Crash! Dog breath is here, Sasuke announced as he turned a page, somewhat unnecessarily. I noticed, I grumbled, as I sat up from the floor, where I'd tumbled in fright at the minor catastrophe happening just outside the door. Oi, dog breath, go take a shower. You reek, more than usual, and that's really saying something. Naruto. You made it after all. Kiba shouted, ignoring the shower quip. Ha, but we got here before you. Guess we're the better team this time around. Yes, well, we ran into a spot of trouble, Sasuke said darkly, snapping his book shut. He knew he wouldn't be getting much reading in after this. Huh. Holy hell, Naruto, what happened to you? Kiba sounded horrified. I was thoroughly confused. I fell off the bed when you ran into the door, moron. Not that. I meant, you know. His clothes flapped, he was obviously making some violent gesture that I couldn't see. I glanced up at Sasuke for clarification, and he sighed. Your eyes, dobe. Oh, that. I grinned sheepishly. Yeah, there was this nutjob called Orochimaru in the forest. He came after us and tried to cut me in half. I didn't dodge him quite fast enough, and he got my eyes instead of my heart or neck. Kind of a pain, he took me and team out and we barely got away. Stupid bastard, it hurt, too. Geez, that's too bad, Kiba muttered. A heavy warmth clambered onto my lap, and as Akamaru sniffed my face I wrinkled my nose in protest. You, serious dog breath. Worse than Kiba's. Oi. I grinned, then yelped and shoved the puppy away. EW. Akamaru, you can't lick the blood off my face. That's just gross. Dog slobber. EW. Has it started bleeding again? I'll get the medic, Sasuke said instantly. God, Sasuke, don't. I snapped. I was joking, sheesh. Leave the medic in peace, he's seen me enough already. Which reminds me, I have to take you to get your bandages changed later. Hey, Shino and Hinata are coming, I said as I sensed out their chakra approaching. It's about time, man, they're so slow. You better not be trying to get out of seeing the medic, dobe. Wah. Excuse me, can't a girl get some sleep around here? Hey guys, finally. What are you doing in here, Kiba? Good morning to you too, Saku. Hey, are you Lise? Shut up. I bellowed at the top of my lungs, and there was instant, blessed silence. I could track where people were, hear Hinata's rapid heartbeat, sense Sasuke moving over to me, a silent question in his footsteps. Sorry, just, not so loud, okay? My head still hurts. I was surprised to find that it still did. I leaned backwards, wincing as my head made contact with the edge of the bed, suddenly feeling tired out all over again. Sasuke's hand rested on my shoulder gently. Hey, maybe you should lie down. I scowled in his direction, lifting my head off the metal bed frame. Ah, what? I only just got up. Not to sleep, Naruto. Just lie down for a while on the bed, you can stay awake and talk or whatever, but I really think you should lie down. Before I could put together a coherent argument, or even really care enough to think about doing so, Sasuke had gently lifted me, far more easily than he should have been able to, and as he set me down on the soft bed I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, and groaned quietly as the dizziness spun my senses into a disconcerting mess. Make it stop, I moaned, clinging weakly to his shirt and feeling sick as his hands lifted away, leaving me with no anchor points as my own hands let go, just a void that felt as if it was shifting and spinning around me. I'm not going anywhere, and the room's not spinning, Sasuke said calmly, gently pushing me back against the pillow and keeping one hand on my shoulder, knowing I wanted the reference point. It feels like it is, I grumbled, but the world was steadying, I didn't feel quite as dizzy. How are you feeling this morning? Sakura asked, a little nervously, from her bed. Che, I grunted irritably, annoyed by my weakness. Been better, that's for sure. A warm deadweight dropped onto my stomach and I winced, before patting the small dog absently. That's right, teammates here. How did you guys go in that exam, anyway? We got an easy tea time of it, Hinata stammered out, and I mentally locked her position next to the tickling, buzzing chakra source that was Shino. Wow. I never noticed that about his chakra before. Yeah. When did you guys get in? Sakura asked. We were the second team in, Kiba explained. Got off easy, a team of loser Rainin attacked us, but we overpowered them and nicked their scroll. After that it was child's play to make it to the tower. We didn't have to fight much at all. Lucky you, I mumbled, starting to feel sleepy, only to yelp and jerk away slightly as Sasuke yanked a blanket up to my chest. What the hell, team? I can still put myself to bed. Sheesh. What am I, completely retarded? Don't answer that, Sasuke. I lay back again, muttering curses under my breath and curling up under the nice warm blanket, although I wouldn't tell Sasuke that. What's wrong with him? Hinata asked softly. He looks so pale, and the dizzy spell. Nothing's wrong, I grumbled. Just tired. Really, tired. I felt ready to drop off at any second, and my breathing was starting to slow, but I clung to consciousness, listening to the continued conversation. You guys may have gotten it easy, but we sure didn't, Sasuke said grimly, but quietly. We got separated early on, and after getting banged up a bit we rejoined, only to get attacked by a ninja who was way out of our league. We guessed A rank plus. Teammate all inhaled sharply, quick startled hisses of air. We, being a team who'd encountered A rank ninja before, would be more likely to be able to tell than some of the other teams. We barely got away, and we were all badly hurt. I got knocked out, and Naruto. He huffed wordlessly. Well, you can see the bandage. On our way here we got ambushed again, and if Team 9 hadn't found us, we would probably have been killed. Sasuke took a shuddering breath and continued, by the time we made it here, Naruto was definitely in the worst condition. He'd lost a lot of blood, and was very low on energy, going into shock, other assorted injuries, not to mention the blade he was cut with was poisoned, which didn't help matters. The medics did what they could, but he's still very weak from blood loss, hence the paleness and dizziness. There was a long pause, probably partially from shock. It was rare for Sasuke to speak for so long at one time. I half-smiled absently. His eyes? Shino asked, speaking for the first time since his team had arrived. There was another pause, and I sighed faintly. Why was that such a hard question to answer, every time? He was blinded, Sasuke said quietly. The sword, it was poisoned, there was too much damage. The medics can't do anything. He was permanently blinded. There's nothing anyone can do. Talk about, defeatist. I thought sleepily. Even if he is right, Hinata squeaked, sounding horrified and appalled. But, what about, he can't, doesn't, mean, can't, but, the voices faded away and I sank into sleep. I was dragged from my nice warm quiet sleep by a loud scream. God! Quit screaming, already! I yelled, pulling the covers over my head and then burying my head under the pillow for good measure. I could still hear the scream, and it didn't stop. There was a thump as Sasuke hit the floor, having jumped off his bed, and then there was a yelp and the scream cut off as he smacked whoever it was over the head. Who is it this time? I mumbled, letting my nose peek out from under the pillow. Naruto! Oh my god, what happened? What the hell, Eno pig? He was asleep. Oh, it's just Eno. I curled up a little, hoping I could fall asleep again, but whimpered and covered my head as the pillow was abruptly yanked off. Eno, stop it, said Sasuke flatly. Sasuke-kun, what, he's hurt, what happened? Troublesome. Oh, wonderful, the rest of Team 10 is here. Forgoing any attempt at sleep, I sat up and made to rub my eyes, only to stop as I touched the rough bandages. As far as I could tell, it wasn't bleeding again, but my eyes were throbbing, and I was still slightly disoriented. Hey, Sasuke asked, touching my arm. You feeling any better? My head still hurts, I reported, but I don't feel like the floor's warped into another dimension under my feet without my knowledge, so that's an improvement. That's good, you're recovering. Do you want to lie down again? Goddammit, I have been lying here since, what time is it? Silence, punctuated only by the harsh breathing of Team 10 and Sasuke's quieter, calmer life signs. What day is it? Silence. Oh, for fuck's sake, what month is it? Naruto, calm down, it's still July, my friend said quickly. It's the 4th day of the exam, late afternoon. Right. Thank you. Now what was my point? Oh, yeah, I've been lying down for too long. I'm bored. Seriously, Shika, how do you do this all day? Troublesome. I rolled my eyes, laughing, only to wince and put one hand to my forehead as the action made my eyeballs burn with pain. Ow! Mental note, don't do that again. What's wrong? Sasuke asked instantly, and I scowled in annoyance, both at his hovering and my own stupidity in forgetting about my injury. I'm fine, I just tried to roll my eyes. Bad idea, Ino sniffed. So, forehead girl, when did your team come in? What did you do to your hair? That's an awful trim. And why is Naruto wearing a blindfold? I snorted and stood up. I'm sick of listening to this explanation. I'm outta here. I darted out the door before anyone could regain enough mental composure to stop me. Naruto! I heard Sasuke shout, and half grinned as I touched the wall and turned to run down the hallway. I'd let Sasuke explain the situation, but in the meantime, I was hungry. I sniffed at the air, managing to catch a whiff of sushi, and moved in that direction, belatedly remembering the medic telling Sasuke there was a mess hall downstairs as I stumbled down the first step. It only took me a second to figure out how deep the steps were, and then I was skipping down them happily towards the food smell. I hit the bottom sooner than expected and the recoil pitched me forward onto my knees. Oops, I grinned, standing up and feeling for the wall, trotting down the corridor and keeping my hand against the metal, following the straight corridor. Within a few minutes the wall fell away from my hand with the quick jar that usually indicated the edge of a doorway, and the food smell tripled in strength. Aha! Hello, mess hall. The moral, always follow your nose. I was happily chewing through a handful of onigiri when a hand landed on my shoulder, and I stiffened briefly and glanced up with a smile, saying through a mouthful of rice, "Hi, Kakashi-sensei." "Hi, Naruto," he said, sounding vaguely amused. "Where's Sasuke?" "Oh, he's upstairs," I replied, losing interest as I figured he just needed to ask my friend something. Team 10 came in to bother us, and I got bored and hungry so I came down here to get some food. They being Ino, were asking too many questions, so I left Sasuke to explain on his own. "Huh, sucks to be him. So you came down here on your own?" he asked calmly. Yeah, I said, vaguely confused. And I was coordinated enough to only walk into 2 walls, 1 door, and to fall down the stairs only once. And it was off the bottom step anyway. He sighed in response, and I found myself being steered over to the side of the room. "There's a bench here, take a seat, Naruto." I shrugged, tapped the bench with my shin to be sure of exactly how far away it was, and then sat down, taking another bite of rice. Kakashi-sensei sat down beside me quietly, and for several seconds there was silence between us, just the clatters from around the mess hall and me chewing contentedly. I swallowed my last mouthful and listened impassively to the vague echoes of Ino screeching loudly from upstairs. "Sensei." "Yes, Naruto." "Why?" I frowned slowly. "Why is everyone making such a big deal out of this? I mean, it's not like I'm dead. I don't mind half as much as everyone else." "I mean," Ino screamed. Sakura screamed. "You nearly swore." Kiba kind of flipped, but not really. Out of everyone he probably had the best reaction, except Sasuke or Shino. But they're ice cubes, so they don't count. Hinata nearly fainted. "I mean, what's all the fuss? It's just one more injury." There was a short silence before my sensei sighed a little. "Naruto, I understand what you're going through." I tilted my head to look up at him silently, confused. "When I was 13, I lost my left eye in a fight. Readjusting was difficult." He let out a bark of dark laughter. "Obviously you got it worse than I did. But I didn't want to think about it. I avoided it for a long time, blocked it out, focused on other things. It was hard to think about, especially after." He trailed off, and I noted the unfinished sentence with interest. Maybe it was time to finally get around to reading Sensei's file, but I got used to it, and I accepted it. Kakashi continued. "Your friends are just worried about you. Even if you're avoiding it, you were badly hurt." It was a bit of a shock realizing that they and their friends could get hurt, possibly even killed. I blew a lock of hair off my face. "I know. But they don't have to treat me like I'm totally helpless. I mean, it's like I can't do anything for myself anymore. It's annoying. It's like I'm useless." My voice went quiet at the end and I slumped back onto the bench weakly. "They're worried," Kakashi said quietly. "They don't want you to get hurt any worse, and they're scared you'll end up doing yourself even more damage. They just don't want you to get hurt." I shrugged, not entirely appeased. "I'm still not helpless." Kakashi chuckled sadly. "I understand, Naruto. Now what say we go back upstairs? Sasuke is probably wondering where you've gotten to." "Che," I grumbled, but I stood up anyway, licking my fingers to make sure I hadn't missed any of the rice. Kakashi-sensei gave a long-suffering sigh. "Come here." "Wah." I went still as Sensei began to brush gently at my face, getting rid of sticky rice grains I hadn't even known were there, dusting off the front of my shirt as well with obvious, if silent, amusement. I pouted at him. So I'm a messy eater. Kakashi just sighed and took hold of my wrist. Let's just head back upstairs, okay? I managed not to walk into the doorway, and Kakashi-sensei told me when we came up to the stairs, so I didn't end up tripping over those. At the top, I was expecting another step, and stumbled, but not too much. It looked like I just tripped slightly, tripping over air itself like I was infamous for. Sorry, Naruto, I should have warned you about that. Ha! Kaka-sensei, I trip over everything. Telling me it's there is probably not going to help. Kakashi only sighed again and led me back to the room Team 7 was staying in. Hey, Sasuke! I said cheerfully as I was steered inside. Ino was sitting on Sakura's bed, doing something with a kunai, and Shikamaru was leaning against a wall. I was surprised he wasn't sprawled on the floor, the lazy bum. There's food downstairs, if anyone wants it. Hey! Sasuke had grabbed me almost instantly and dragged me over to my bed. You moron, are you trying to kill yourself? He growled, shoving me down and only tightening his grip when I complained. No, just lie down. You're tired and hurt, and if you pass out from blood loss again I will be very upset. Okay, jeez. I yelped, lying back on the pillows again. Calm down, Sasuke, OCD much? He just sighed and slumped down beside the bed. Thanks for bringing him back, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura said quietly. What am I, a lost puppy? I snarled, sitting up only to jerk back down as Sasuke made to cuff my ear. Okay, I'll go to sleep. Idiot, he grumbled, but I could tell he'd actually been worried as he pulled the blanket over me again. Why is everyone always so damn worried? I thought crossly, tugging the blanket hem up to my chin. I can take care of my damn self. I've been doing it since I was 4 years old. And now, it's like I'm back at that age where everything had to be done for me because I was too young and stupid to do anything. Like I'm too useless to do anything on my own. My silent fuming was interrupted by Kakashi saying quietly, "How are you guys all holding up?" Sakura answered first. I'm fine. Ino followed straight after. No worries at all. Troublesome. Which translated to a situation normal from Shika. Munch, said everything you needed to know about Chuji. I grinned slightly, sleepily. Sasuke? Kakashi-sensei prompted gently. For several seconds my friend didn't answer, before he said quietly, I'm okay as long as Naruto is okay. I flinched awake at a vague flicker of chakra, reaching for a weapon instinctively and tracking my teammates. They were both in the room, Sasuke near my bed, Sakura on her own. As I recognized our sensei's chakra I relaxed, tracking my memories back and trying to work out when I had fallen asleep. I wasn't even sure what day it was now, let alone what time. I was starting to pull myself up when my breath caught in my throat and I coughed, almost falling flat back on the bed and catching myself on my elbow instead. Sasuke's voice caught my attention almost instantly. You're awake. Nothing escapes this boy, I grumbled in between coughs, gasping for breath as I forced the choking feeling in my chest away and inhaled deeply. Hey, sensei. I managed to call with some volume as Kakashi opened the door, grinning at him energetically. Good morning, Naruto, he returned politely. Did you sleep well? I shrugged. I dunno. I was unconscious. What day is it? Last day of the exams, Sasuke told me. Niji's team, the Hyuga, remember him? Came in about 10 o'clock last night after you fell asleep. The rest of the teams have until midday to make it here before they're disqualified. Really? Who's in? I asked, finding myself interested. I was starting to recover from the blood loss problem. I decided. Well, there's our team, teams 8 and 10, all the rookies made it, huh? Didn't notice that before, Sasuke mused, before shaking himself quickly. Niji, Tenten, and Lee. That Sand team was the first one in. Another Leaf team showed up about 3 a.m., that Kabuto guy you didn't like, his team. The 3 Oto ninja who ambushed us turned up about 20 minutes ago, and none of the others have been sighted yet. 7 teams, I mused. That's still a fairly big pool. What if the other teams show up? Sakura ventured, and I immediately shook my head. No way. I can account for the death or incapacitation of at least 9 other teams, and I know of 3 scrolls that were destroyed. Did you know they give off flares of energy when you set them on fire? I added, frowning a little. Anyway, that means there's a top of 12 teams that can make it. No, wait, 11. Maybe 10. I doubt 4 teams are even left alive in the forest right now, or at least whole teams, and it's even less likely they'll make it before time up. Naruto, what do you mean by account for? Kakashi asked, sounding curious. I shrugged in response, slightly confused. Heard them dying at various intervals in the forest. Most of them forgot about the man-eating plants Enko-san warned us about, and there were a couple of incidents involving tigers. There was definitely one with the wolves. I heard someone falling in the river, Sasuke offered. I'm pretty sure no one but us was chased by the giant snakes, though. I nodded, agreeing with Sasuke's river thought. Hey, about what time is it? 7:30, Sakura replied, piping up nervously from her bed. I mused quietly to myself. I wonder what else these guys have in store for us. I tried to listen to the explanation, I really did, but I kept getting distracted. The rising bloodlust from that Garagai caught my attention every time it shifted, and nervous movements scattered around the open room made my mind try to log everyone's positions on a mental map, and their chakras had started to feel familiar, scarily fast, so that it was actual chakra recognition that let me pinpoint Hinata and Shino and Kiba instead of their voices. And the random interspersions of coughing fits meant that my attention had plenty of chances to wander. It was actually kind of odd, how hard it was to concentrate, although Sasuke was unconcerned. This kind of blood loss will affect you for a while, he said quietly as we stood in our positions. Just do your best to focus, and trust your instincts while you recover. The way he said it made me smirk a little, like there was no question I'd be fine. He was right, of course, but after listening to all of the rest of the Doom and Gloom rookies, a bit of sunshine was good, even if it came from the Ice Prince himself. I nodded, then shook my head as the proctor, I think someone introduced him as Hayate, coughed again and asked if anyone wanted to forfeit. Only the snake Yakushi Kabuto did, and I muttered to Sasuke in a low voice, well, that makes 8 times failed, huh? My friend chuckled faintly. No one else wants to forfeit? The proctor coughed out, amid deafening silence, and there was a long, expectant pause. No one else at all. I think they're waiting for you to forfeit, Dobe, Sasuke said quietly. I scowled with a sharp, angry twist of the mouth, and grumbled back, they're just gonna have to be disappointed, team. No one else going to forfeit? Hayate pressed. Long silence. Anybody at all? Silence. Last chance, guys. Silence. Are you all totally sure? Silence. Nobody else wants to forfeit? Silence. There's no shame in conceding defeat. This has been a very trying exam. Silence. This is your final decision. Silence. Anybody who's not quite sure? If you don't feel quite up to it. Oh, for crying out loud. I am not going to forfeit. Can we move on already? I bellowed in frustration. Hayate dropped all pretenses at speaking to all of the genin at this stage and spoke directly to me. Are you sure? If you don't think you're up to it, it's okay to give up. Kakashi-sensei. I whined, before abruptly changing my tone as a suspicion hit me. Wait, did you put him up to this? Would I do that? Sensei asked innocently from a balcony thing that was supposed to act like a grandstand, I think. I scowled, wanting to roll my eyes, but not daring. Once had been enough of a warning. Look, I'm not giving up, so can we just move on? Please. Hayate coughed once more, and there was the faint buzz of electricity in the air, before someone said, loudly, first match is Uchiha Sasuke vs Akato Yoroi. Clear the arena, except for the 2 fighters. I nodded, frowning as I tried to remember everything I had on this Yoroi. I couldn't recall anything straight away, but I did have his chakra essence, right now, and a skill that seemed to be developing as fast as it fucking could to try and keep me alive. Sasuke? I said quietly, before the proctors could try to make me leave. I don't know much about this guy, but his chakra's a little funny. I don't think you should let him get too close, or hit you with chakra-based attacks, at least until you work out what he can do. His chakra, it's Konohan, yes, but only just. There's just something not normal there. Watch your back. He nodded slightly, and I patted him lightly on the shoulder, and skipped out of range of a chunin trying to grab me, darting away and up the stairs. Honestly, it's not like I'm a total idiot. I remember where the stairs are that we climbed down, okay, half an hour of speech crap earlier. Maybe some people would have to look around, but not me. I settled onto the railing near the stairs, focusing intently on the 2 remaining chakras still in the arena. Sakura and the rest of the Rookie 9 were all standing fairly close to me as Hayate called, "The fight will continue until one of the fighters is unable to continue for any reason, or forfeits the match. A participant can forfeit at any time. Killing is allowed, although I reserve the right to intervene at any time to prevent death if the opponent is already incapacitated. Now begin." Yoroi started with a straight leap at Sasuke, stupid in any other situation, but with them so close together, it would have been difficult to dodge. Fortunately, Sasuke darted away, fast on his feet as ever, and I strained my focus to zero in on Yoroi's chakra. It was shifting slightly, pulsing in time with his overexcited heartbeat, but whatever jutsu he was using, if it was even a jutsu, wasn't a familiar one. I couldn't even guess at what it might do. It was totally beyond anything I'd sensed before. I couldn't help the triumphant grin as Sasuke sprang all over the arena as he dodged Yoroi's every attack. He was a quick little bastard, sometimes. His opponent was getting more and more frustrated as he chased my friend around, and it was obvious that whatever tactic he was going for wasn't working. I wasn't sure if anyone else had noticed the faint, chittering whir of Sasuke fiddling with his ninja wire whenever he hit a wall, but I was getting curious as to what my friend was up to. Chit wire. Wire chink chink wire wire. Chink chink wire chit wire chink 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 wire chit wire chink wire chink click shriek. A sharp yelp and a soft huff of, "Was that laughter from my buddy down there?" And then Sasuke called with a casual air, "You might want to stop moving. Spider's web is pretty tricky to work out of when it's inactive, and you've already tripped it twice. And if you ask me really nicely, I might be able to get you loose and let you keep the leg you've gotten wrapped in the wire." His opponent spat a fairly nasty curse, punctuated with a rising yelp of pain that finally reminded me of where I'd heard all this before. Naruto, are you okay?" Sakura was asking in that still too anxious voice, but I just laughed harder and waved her off. Over my own hilarity I could hear Yoroi struggling, or rather the results of attempts to, as Sasuke tugged on his strands of razor wire to adjust them and their grip. He was still good at this, always had been, perfect Uchiha brat, even though it had been a long time since we'd played the trap game Spider's Web. It had been a favorite of Itachi's. In fact, it had usually been him doing this to Sasuke. Hanging over the railing, I bellowed, "Copycat." "And proud of it, too," he quipped, as the proctor pronounced his opponent thoroughly incapacitated. While 2 Jounin and a couple of Chunin struggled to get the guy loose without tearing him apart, I trotted unerringly down the stairs, Sensei catching my shoulder halfway down and making me yelp as he all but jerked me off my feet by the collar. He set me down again on the step carefully, and said in a sing-song voice that nearly hid the strain therein, "Be careful, Naruto, you don't want to trip with everyone watching." I tilted my head up in a mockery of looking at him, nonplussed. "Yeah, like that'd be anything new," I said, but humored Sensei by moving down the last 4 stairs at a slower pace. Then I paused to compose myself, straightening my jacket and even running tidying fingers through my hair, before I cleared my throat, pinpointed Sasuke's position relative to me in my mind, and launched myself at him. I got him, too, right around the middle, sending us both tumbling to the ground with a yelp. "Naruto, you retard!" He snarled without venom, shoving at me. Copycat. I taunted back, and together we rolled over and over in a mock brawl that served no purpose except to amuse us both. 1 half roll later and our odd pilgrimage of the broken floor was stopped as my back hit a pair of shins. Curious as to who wouldn't step out of the way of 2 brawling genin, I pushed out my chakra to try and guess who it was. The comforting feel of Sensei's startlingly dense chakra greeted me, muted as he shielded the most of it out of what I guessed was habit, that our Sensei was more paranoid than me, and that was saying something, and made a token protest as the man wrenched Sasuke and me apart. "Okay, that's enough. Naruto, you shouldn't push yourself too hard, especially with your own fight coming up. Sasuke, we've wasted enough time. I need to take you now, before that curse contaminates you even more." I stiffened in surprise and twisted in Kakashi-sensei's grip. When had he found out about what Orochi Freak did to Sasuke? It was news to me that he knew, but Sasuke drew in a soft breath with a stubbornness that told me this was an argument that had been started at an earlier date, maybe this morning, when Sensei had come to our room to herd us back here, wherever we were now. Sasuke had been half-dressed, and I had been shooed into the bathroom quickly enough, so I suppose I could have lost the clash in the shower water. I knew that if I put up my hand and traced Sasuke's chin, I would find it raised at a stubborn, defiant angle. "I won't go," he said clearly. "What did you say?" Sensei asked dangerously, sounding beyond annoyed now. I was given a little, unconscious, shake and set aside. Sasuke, do you realize what? I know it perfectly well, Kakashi-sensei, he growled back, but I'm not going until Naruto's fought. I'm not leaving until then. Don't even try to force me otherwise. Kakashi-sensei gave a very long-suffering sigh, growled out at fine, and then Shunshined up to the balcony where the third Hokage was sitting. Holy shit, when did he get here? I had no idea the Sandaime was here. Wait, he was talking earlier, wasn't he? Sasuke and I made it to the stairs before the electric buzz ran through me again and I tipped my head up and around, searching blindly for the source. A faint, computerized ping sounded, and then the proctor called, next matches between Inuzuka Kiba and Uzumaki Naruto. I grinned, delighted, and clapped Sasuke on his back just below his armpit. I missed the shoulder. Sounds like I'm up, team, I said cheerfully. Yeah. Good luck, Dobe, he said gruffly, patting my shoulder in return. Be careful. I waved him off, unconcerned as I jogged back to the middle of the arena. Scram, you! I got a match to win. Kiba had vaulted over the railing and now stood, shifting nervously from foot to foot, as Hayate reiterated the same rules as before. Was it my imagination or did he put more emphasis on the "you can forfeit at any time" rule, and said in a low voice, "Listen, Naruto, no hard feelings. I don't want to hurt you." I regarded him coolly, ignoring the faint throb still tugging at my head. Don't you dare go easy on me, Kiba. Begin. My opponent was still hesitating slightly and I took advantage of that split second, darting forwards in a zigzag and dodging Kiba's surprise counter. He got me hard in the stomach with his next shot, though, and I dropped to the floor, making him freeze for the moment I needed to knock his feet out from under him. I followed the force of my spin to throw him away from me with a second striking kick, and on the third spin I hurled 2 shuriken after the still flying dog user. I had little hope they'd hit him, but the quick succession of attacks would keep him off balance, hopefully long enough for me to get at my tag pocket. I had worked out what went wrong with the freeze tag in the Forest of Death. I'd gotten the glyph order wrong. The tag had exploded and then the elements combined, in the midst of the blast, causing the blizzard-style reaction instead of a solid block of ice. They were an option, but only just. I didn't want to really hurt Kiba, so the volatile shock, explosive and failed leaf tags were out. Ditto for the tranquilizer tags. I was really starting to suspect the drug they simulated was fatal, and the nerve tags, no. Let's not go there. Kiba sprang at me and my planning time was over. I blocked 3 punches, let a 4th graze my shoulder and was totally unprepared for the foot that drove into the base of my chest, making me crumple backwards as I fought to breathe again. I rolled away from a fresh blow and scrambled to my knees, still gasping for air, and hit the deck again in time to avoid a weapon? Not sure, only to spring up again in Kiba's face, and the dog user narrowly missed a retaliatory elbow in the gut. We backed away from each other, both panting, and I forced in a deep breath, waiting for the Inuzuka to make the next move. The biting whir of shuriken announced Kiba's unwillingness to get into close contact again, and I bared my teeth in a grin. Time to get busy. I dodged the metal weapons by just falling backwards, at the same time reaching into my pockets for the things I'd need to pull this off. I felt oddly calm, now that I had a plan. I was the only one in this arena aside from Kiba, no one else to worry about getting hit by one of my blows, or tripping over them when I was trying to dodge. I was calm and collected. I could do this. Okay. First things first. I let a careful burst of chakra stream from my fingers and as I leaped back to my feet I let fly, sending a handful of stones skimming towards Kiba, counting silently in my head. 2, 1. There was no explosion, one of several reasons I considered these seals fails, but there was a sound like a large amount of mud had just splattered the arena. Funny. That's exactly what had happened. I didn't waste time laughing at Kiba's outraged bellowing, the startled shouts of the spectators fading to the back of my awareness. I was halfway through Kage Bunshin when the tag went off. Now I was half surrounded by a wavering sea of familiar chakra, chakra flare, and we spread out in the sea of mud, which would hopefully confuse Kiba's sense of smell. The thick swamp scent was certainly bothering me, and I don't have a specialized sense of smell like the Inuzukas. The dog user snarled and spun around, feet slipping and splattering in the heavy mud, no doubt trying to identify which of the clones was actually me. I mentally wished him luck. Apparently even Sasuke, having known me for years and with his Sharingan, had trouble telling if it was a shadow clone or me he was fighting. Anyone else was pretty much stuffed except for the guess and check method. Or, guess and poke, that works, too. Alright then, Kiba snarled, shaking himself roughly. First things first, get rid of the lightweights. I got ready to A, dodge and B, implement the next stage, but couldn't help wondering if Kiba was aware how easily I could make more clones. Probably not. Getsuga! Kiba roared, and I winced, then bounded quickly away from the harsh whoosh the spin of the technique created, not wanting to get caught in its impact. The clones did their best but were mostly dispelled, resulting in a large cloud of smoke, and I grinned to myself as I and a handful of remaining clones shot after him. Little known fact, Kage Bunshin smoke can make people sneeze. Another, slightly better known fact, it is really hard to concentrate on where your enemy is springing from when sneezing. Especially repeatedly. Overall effect, Kiba, flat on his back in the mud, with half a dozen MES sitting on his chest. I, the real me, put a kunai to the dog user's throat and said calmly, surrender. There was a stunned, shocked silence, and as my mind let itself relax and return to focusing generally on the outside world, instead of the close-knit concentration on a single opponent, I quickly found Sasuke and Sakura, both close to the top of where I remembered the stairs to be. Sensei was moving towards them rapidly, and now I could sense the proctor, Hayate, hovering at the edge of the arena. There was a long pause, and I was starting to worry that I might have to actually hurt Kiba, before Hayate called solemnly, winner of match 2, Uzumaki Naruto. I breathed a sigh of relief and my clones all dispelled as I got off the Inuzuka's ribs. I held out a hand to the muddy dog user, saying calmly, good fight, Kiba. He could have taken the loss badly. He could have refused the hand and snarled at me. He instead just took the offered hand and stood up, shaking himself off a little, and I heard Akamaru yelp from inside his jacket, suddenly remembering the puppy had refused to come out since they got here. I didn't know why. Is Akamaru okay? I asked, suddenly a bit worried. I didn't hurt him while I was sitting on you, did I? Kiba paused, sizing me up, before I sensed his mood lightening considerably. He's okay, you were placed so you didn't have your weight on him, he explained. Good fight, Naruto. Hey, where the hell did you get that much mud from, anyway? He demanded. I'll be smelling this for weeks. I laughed. Me too. Our friendly chat was interrupted by my sensei suddenly appearing nearby and saying cheerfully, hey, Naruto, could you come with me for a minute? He put his hand on my shoulder and forcibly steered me off the arena and towards the stairs. I frowned, trying and failing to wriggle free. You better not be taking me to the hospital, Kakashi-sensei, I warned him, and suddenly found myself held slightly off the ground by the back of my jacket as he went up the stairs. Hey, no, Naruto, I just need to do something with Sasuke, and he won't go anywhere without you, Sensei explained. Oh. You better not be taking him to the hospital either, Sensei. I won't help you with that, he chuckled, sounding slightly irritated, but it was a weird sort of tone, not quite annoyed, more, what was the word? Exasperated, that's it. You don't really have a choice here, kid. I was set gently back on my feet next to my Uchiha friend, and beamed at the rest of Team 7. What was all the worrying for, huh? I said cheerfully. What worrying? I knew you'd beat the crap out of dog breath, Sasuke grumbled. Quit doubting me, or I'll drop you. Promises, promises. Boys, Sensei intervened, his voice slightly strained, as if he was trying very hard to make sure his voice was as light and lackadaisically carefree as always. I cocked my head at him, wondering what his hang-up was. He wasn't taking us to the hospital, so he couldn't be afraid of our impending deaths, so what was? Our previous conversation came back to me in a flash. What Sensei had said about Orochi freaks cutting out my eyes rattling my peers, perhaps it rattled him as well. I guessed if one of my students came back from an in-village test that I assigned them with a disfiguring injury, I'd feel a little bad. I smiled sympathetically and patted Sensei's arm. He hesitated a beat, and I got the feeling he was looking at me funnily. Let's go. What followed was a very, very, very boring evening. I was guided over carefully, with a hand on my elbow directing me that irritated the crap out of me, into a large, drafty place with stone walls and pillars, and an echo following every breath. I shivered inside, even as Sensei explained that this dusty place was a temple, and that the holy setting would help the seal take. Somehow. Placebo effect, maybe. I was settled out of the way in a dark corner, on a coarse bit of material that took me a moment to recognize as Sensei's vest. Naruto, we're going to just be over there, Sensei said softly to me, his hand on my head as he stood in front of me. Whatever you hear, I need you to stay on this spot, okay? This might hurt Sasuke just a little, but if you smudge the seal by accident it will all be for nothing. I heard Sasuke swallow in a way I knew preceded his stoic, determined face. I sucked in air rapidly, the dank chill making me shiver again. Hurt him? I repeated anxiously. Why are you going to hurt him? Some creep just bit him, give him a bit of antiseptic and a stitch or two. Orochimaru did something a little more than just bite him, Naruto, Sensei was saying patiently. I need to seal away the damage, or it will spread through Sasuke's whole body. It's like if someone stabs you with a kunai, if you want to recover you must pull the blade out even if it hurts when you do. Okay. I hesitated, wishing for the nth time I could see what was going on, could glean some clue from visual aids. Sasuke rustled as he shifted, his sandals sliding along stone. It's okay, Naruto, he muttered. I chewed my lip doubtfully, but nodded. I'll stay here, I promised. And there was another long, long pause, in which I grew very bored once more. From the sound of it, Sensei had Sasuke strip down to his boxers and sit in the middle of a clearing. The sharp smell of blood reached me a moment later, and I realized Sensei was bleeding himself to ink the seal in his own powerful, chakra-infused sanguine fluid. I itched to see the seal, and wondered if Sensei would consent to teaching me how to draw it later. It would be cool to have some real instruction in my seals, rather than the hit-and-miss method, which often resulted in unplanned explosions. Finally, all noise stilled, and I perked up, sensing that something was about to happen. That's it, Sensei declared. He raised his voice a bit, presumably to call back to me, his clothes rustled like he was turning in my direction. Naruto, I'm going to start now. You stay right there, whatever happens, alright? I nodded, resisting the urge to roll my eyes, knowing from the last time I tried that how much it would hurt. Just a few more moments and this will all be over, Sasuke, Kakashi said to my friend. Grit your teeth. Sasuke took a shaky breath, he sounded cold, and I heard his teeth knock together as he followed our teacher's command. The sound of flesh brushing flesh and soft claps told me Sensei was creating hand seals at an incredibly rapid rate. I sat up straighter anxiously. Fujihoin. The sealing of the curse. Kakashi-sensei said, accompanied by a sharp thump, planting his hand on Sasuke, and a surge of chakra. There was a sound as Sasuke instinctively tried to scream but managed to cut it back just before it burst out of his lips. It seemed to catch in his mouth, bubbling just below the surface for slow seconds. It still wasn't over when his resolve cracked and he cried out, low and hoarse. Sensei was unrelenting, his chakra a steady stream as he forced his seal to brand to Sasuke's shoulder. I whimpered, but remembered my promise and stayed put. Still, I resolved to kick Kakashi-sensei's shins hard when this was over. It seemed like forever, but it was probably only 10 seconds later that the chakra stopped and Sasuke let out a low moan before collapsing forwards. I think he managed to catch himself on his hands, arms propping him up, and I listened to his labored, irregular breathing with concern, chewing my lip. Said Kakashi, clothing rustling as he wiped off his hands. Even if that curse reawakens, my seal should keep it contained. But you have to remember, Sasuke, the foundation of the spell's power is in the strength of your will. You have to want it to work, or it won't. If you doubt your own power to resist the curse, the seal will crumble. Understand? Sasuke made a noise that could have been a yes, sensei, or could have been a death rattle, and his arms gave out. I winced at the sound of his bare torso impacting the stone floor, and wondered if he was unconscious. He'd have to be. He's exhausted, Kakashi said before I could ask. Nothing to worry about. He'll be fine. I nearly collapsed myself from relief, and felt the tension melt out of me. I had no doubt that Sasuke would be able to keep the seal in place, he was going to be okay. We were going to be okay. Then, a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature passed over me and I felt a terribly familiar chakra. The moment I identified it, though, the owner was already speaking up. Well. So you've mastered sealing too, have you, Kakashi? The sound of sliding footsteps informed me that the speaker was approaching Kakashi and Sasuke. Looks like you're all grown up. Pardon my rudeness, Kakashi, but I have no use for you. I'm here for the Uchiha boy behind you. Ice flooded me, and I moved before I realized it. In an instant, I was standing in front of Sensei, a kunai in each hand and a toothy snarl on my face. Naruto! Kakashi said in choked surprise. Orochimaru sniffed. Oh, it's you, is it? He said distastefully. You're quite resilient, aren't you? Turning up in the most irritating places. You've caused me quite a few annoyances, little one. Get used to it, I sneered. I'm gonna stand between you and Sasuke as long as you want him, you pedo bastard. There was a furious burst of noise that sounded kinda like a raspberry, and the snake spat disdainfully at me, gutter snipe of a child. I have no interest in your teammate's weak body. His Kekkei Genkai is far more valuable to my goals. Sensei sucked in air through his mask, the sound a dull whoosh. The Sharingan. He hissed. You want to steal his eyes. I twitched in horror at the thought of Sasuke, whose vision meant so much, being plunged into the darkness that was my universe. I tightened my grip on my kunai determinedly. Body or eyes, this freak wasn't touching my friend. Then, a large, warm hand grabbed my shoulder and jerked me backwards in a circular movement, sending me crashing to the ground behind Kakashi. His chakra surged, and an odd twittering filled the air. Don't you dare come near my students. Sensei hissed. You will not damage them anymore, Orochimaru. The snake-smelling freak clucked his tongue. Now, that's not very nice, he said in a baby voice. You're not averse to sharing, are you? What if I just have one eye? Hypocritical of you to say no, isn't it? Kakashi-sensei actually flinched at that. The movement conveyed through sound and fluttering chirka, and I wondered what on earth Orochi freak was talking about. After a moment, Sensei drew himself up and spat two words that I'd never heard him say before. Fuck you. Orochimaru chuckled. Always so fractious, Kakashi, he crooned. It's all moot, in any case. That pathetic little party trick you've put on Sasuke won't hold more than a day, and then he'll come to me all on his own. So long. Footsteps echoed and grew quieter, and I realized that the bastard had just walked away. There was a pause, before Sensei's hand was on my back, guiding me to sit up. Come on, Naruto, he said, a wobble in his voice that I don't think I was supposed to hear. Now it's time for the hospital. I didn't argue, choosing to meekly follow as he scooped Sasuke into his arms and took my wrist to lead me. Kakashi's log. How horrifying. Somehow, things have gotten worse. Sasuke and Naruto both won their preliminary matches. I left before Sakura's fight, but I would be surprised if she advanced to the next level. Still, there's always the chance. Orochimaru interrupted the sealing of Sasuke's curse mark. He told me he wanted Sasuke's eyes. His eyes. What am I going to do? First Naruto, then Sasuke. Am I going to get to the hospital to be informed that Sakura got her eyes scratched out in a catfight over Sasuke now? This is a nightmare. That's it for part 4. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.